Chapter 749. At some point, Tang Xin even felt that his willpower was about to be destroyed. He looked at the others on the steps below and saw that they were all covered in sweat and panting heavily as they collapsed on the steps. They remained motionless as they panted and recovered. By noon, half of the day had passed. Tang Xin had barely recovered some of his soul power and spirit. When the other party was on the 50th step, especially when he passed by him, the terrifying pressure was definitely more terrifying than the 110th step. However, on the steps, if he could not withstand it, he would be bounced off by the light of the sea god. "How are you guys feeling?" Tang Xin managed to recover a little and asked. The other 8 people struggled to sit up, but none of them could answer. After a while, Dai Mubai said with a pale face, "He's not trying to kill us. He doesn't want to kill us. He wants to use this method to break our spirit and will. He wants us to be unable to withstand it and retreat down the mountain, failing the test." Dai Mubai understood, and so did the others. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to control it so well. If he wanted to kill us, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. However, this is the Sea God Mountain. He doesn't dare to offend the authority of the Sea God Mountain and attack us. That's why he's using this method, to make us fail the test. At this point, Dai Mubai's face was ashen. "I might not even be able to break through the first step today. I'll need at least half a day to recover." Everyone fell silent. Obviously, the situation was the same. "Despicable," Ning Rongrong said angrily. "He wants to use this method to make it difficult for us to advance. When we recover today, he'll definitely come again tomorrow. When that time comes, we can only watch as time passes, and we'll have to suffer this kind of destruction. This is too much. He's obviously trying to interfere with our test. No, we have to report this to Senior Possessee." But as soon as Ning Rongrong stood up, her whole body went limp and weak. She fell down and couldn't even stand steadily. Behind them, Shun Lingqi and Bai Qinxiang couldn't even speak. "I'm afraid it's useless." Ma Hongjun shook his head and said, as long as he says that he had no choice but to release his domain in order to reduce the pressure of the sea god's light, he won't be able to control it. What can you do? After all, when we were waiting for the stairs, we also released all kinds of buffs. Third brother also released his domain. Bulsh *T. With his strength, does he need to use his domain to resist the light of the sea god at such a low level? Ning Rongrong wanted to refute, but she was powerless. "Actually, the assessment didn't say that we can't interfere," Oscar said in a low voice. "As long as he doesn't kill us, he won't break the rules of the Sea God's Island. The Pope must have sent him here with bad intentions. It seems like he's here to disturb us." At this time, the 2 purple-clothed Sea Soul Masters who had brought them food arrived. "What's going on?" the 2 of them asked in surprise. "It's already noon. Why haven't they moved?" They were still paralyzed on the spot. The few of them explained the situation just now. "The 2 of you, could you please report to Senior Possessee? This Wang Wu is deliberately interfering with us," Dai Mubai hurriedly said. However, the 2 purple-clothed Sea Soul Masters were silent. Seeing this, the 9 of them understood that this wasn't forbidden. Moreover, Senior Possessee was definitely aware of the situation here. When Zhu Zhuqing reached rank 70, Senior Possessee appeared directly. This meant that Senior Possessee had been paying attention to them. Since Senior Possessee didn't appear, it meant that it was tacitly agreed. The 9 of them immediately thought of this point and couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. After the 2 purple-clothed Sea Soul Masters left, the 9 of them were silent again. Depressed expressions appeared on their faces. If this continued, let's not talk about whether they could hold on or not. Even if they could hold on, they didn't have much time to break through every day. They would be stuck in the same place without an inch of progress. At this time, despair began to spread in their hearts. However, at this time, Tang Xin slowly opened his mouth. "Everyone, we don't have to be so desperate. I don't know if you've heard of this saying before. The thing that can make us stronger quickly is our enemy. As long as the enemy can't hit us, it will make us stronger." As soon as he said this, everyone was stunned. "Wang Wu wants to destroy our spirit, will, and body. He wants to interfere with our assessment so that we can't make any progress in the future. However, he will never kill us. As long as we can hold on, we will become stronger. Tang San's words made the other 8 people's eyes light up. Because of the Sea God's Island, he can only use this method to interfere with us. However, it's a double-edged sword. Tang San's eyes flashed with the light of wisdom. The pressure he emits is stronger than the light of the Sea God. It will make us lose the ability to fight in a very short period of time. It will make our spirit and body suffer great pressure. However, he will never kill us, so he controls it very well. Because once we die, Possessy will definitely make a move on him. Under such circumstances, we need a lot of time to recover, so we won't have time to climb the stairs. However, after we recover, we will definitely be greatly improved. The premise is that we must hold on. As long as he doesn't destroy us, even if we don't climb the stairs, our improvement will be even greater. When Tang San and the others had fallen into despair, they saw the light from another angle. Yes, Ma Hongjun sat on the ground and hammered the ground with his hand. I can't feel anything from the light of the Sea God on the 50th level now. If we recover now, our improvement will definitely be greater. If that situation happens again at night, it will be even better for us. Everyone's eyes shone brighter, but we will still fail the assessment in the end. Bai Qinxiang asked in a low voice. Not necessarily. Tang Sen had a confident smile on his face. Wang Wu only used 5 months to complete the first 2 objectives. It won't take him that long to pass through the light of the Sea God. In 2 months, or at most 3 months, I'm sure he will pass through the light of the Sea God and ascend to the 1001st level. At that time, it will be our chance. If he passes the assessment, he won't be able to stay on the Sea God Mountain anymore. At that time, we might even be able to ascend to the next level in one go. Let's use an idiom to describe our current situation. Tang San's eyes shone brightly, building one path in the open while secretly entering another. The more he spoke, the brighter his eyes shone, and the more excited everyone was. Third brother, you're good. Ma Hongjun laughed. 2 months later, when he sees us ascending to the 140th level and completing the assessment, won't he be so angry that he vomited blood? He went for wool and came home shorn, benefiting us for nothing. He even became a whetstone for us for free. Hearing Ma Hongjun's words, everyone's mood instantly brightened up. In their hearts, they secretly thought that they must persevere. Only Zhu Zhuqing faintly looked at the mountain that had disappeared from her sight. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Zhuqing, why are you unhappy? Ning Rongrong's face was a little red. I must persevere. After 2 months, I will slap his face. It's impossible for him to destroy us like this. What about you? Impossible, Zhu Zhuqing whispered. Slap his face. P.S. There are a few more chapters. This chapter ends. Chapter 750. Wang Feng's method was the opposite of Hulaina's. The potential and talent of Little 3 and the others were ultimately stronger than Hulaina's. Just those immortal herbs alone had played a huge role. What he used on Hulaina and the rest was a gentler method. He wanted to stimulate their potential and improve themselves. In addition, there was no other way to solve the problem in the sea, so it was more dangerous. Hence, Wang Feng used a more extreme method on Tang San. He used his domain and soul power to squeeze out their potential and let the 9 of them experience the feeling of surpassing their limits. As Wang Feng had been to the 900th level, he knew how much pressure there was on each level. Naturally, Wang Feng was able to use his original Sin's domain and soul power pressure to let the 9 of them quickly sense the level of their test and how powerful the light of the Sea God was. Of course, he couldn't do it in one go. They couldn't take it at all. However, this method of squeezing out their potential allowed them to grow faster. Within 2 months, they could experience the feeling of surpassing their limits. Coupled with the energy flow from their cultivation at night, the 9 of them had enough time to replenish their energy and recover to their peak condition the next day. They would be squeezed the next day, forming a cycle. The only disadvantage of this method was that the 9 of them might not be able to take it. This was because it was too painful and unbearable. However, it was impossible to surpass their limits in a short period of time without paying a price. Wang Feng had suffered a lot in order to train his body to surpass his limits. Even when Hulaina and the rest were in the sea, Wang Feng used such a gentle method to help them surpass their limits bit by bit. However, they still suffer a lot. If Tang San and the rest couldn't take it, Wang Feng could only say that he was dead. Thinking about it carefully, Wang Feng felt that his journey seemed smooth, but he had also suffered a lot. Not to mention other things, when he absorbed his first soul ring, his body almost exploded. In the end, he managed to pull through. Not many people could do that. However, Wang Feng dared to do that because he knew he had the meteoric tear. Without the meteoric tear, Wang Feng felt that he wouldn't be able to persevere. Furthermore, this can be seen as obstructing the 7 of them. As he thought about this, Wang Fengxin couldn't help but laugh. This was a perfect solution to the problem of his identity being exposed. On the second day, Wang Feng went down to the lowest level again. After that, he unleashed his original Sin's domain and soul power suppression. He was like a big bad wolf as he slowly climbed up towards the 9 people. At this time, Tang San and the others had just recovered from their cultivation. It was a frenzied destruction. The 9 of them had just recovered and had yet to experience the exhilaration of becoming stronger. Under the impact of these 2 forces, they were paralyzed for a long time before they could barely stand up. After that, he cursed as he recovered his soul force, but he still gritted his teeth and persevered. But this was only the beginning. It was impossible for them to get used to this kind of destruction because they were rapidly becoming stronger every day. The pressure Wang Feng exerted on him was getting heavier and heavier every day. Moreover, it would take longer and longer. Wang Feng only needed to control the time and slowly let them be attacked by the domain and soul power, making it even more painful. And on the 5th day, Hulaina and the other 2 had already floated up from the bottom of the sea, officially passing the first test. The appearance of these 3 people obviously surprised Tang San and the others, because it was too fast. Although the content of Hulaina and the other 2's test wasn't complicated, it wasn't simple for them. It had only been 5 months, and they had already completed it. Logically speaking, when Hulaina and the other 2 just floated up, the 9 of them couldn't believe it at all. The content of the first test had completely stopped, and they hadn't even completed half of it. The 3 people from the Martial Spirit Palace had already passed. Under such circumstances, Tang Sanjiu and the others could only grit their teeth and persevere under Wang Feng's ravaging. Obviously, Hulaina and the other 2 passed the test half of the time, which also brought pressure to the 9 of them. These 9 people, it seems that they haven't even completed half of it. After Hulaina and the other 2 returned to the sea, they looked at each other. In the past 5 months, their soul force level had increased by more than 6 levels on average, and Hulaina directly increased by 7 levels. It could be said that the progress was very great. Obviously, it was impossible to be so exaggerated under normal circumstances. But now, seeing that their former opponents, Shrek's 7 monsters, were actually behind them, this sense of accomplishment was unparalleled. Teacher is too strong, Evil Moon said with some excitement. Now we have surpassed them again. Within 5 years, we were overtaken by them. I didn't expect that we still have a chance to surpass them. Yin also nodded. Shrek's 7 monsters were indeed talented, but he shook his head and said, "Unfortunately, that 911, that is, Wang Feng, didn't come with us. It's really strange. This is a good thing." Hulaina sneered and said, "That guy is so strong and has repeatedly caused trouble. Now he's not here. Sir Poptif can stop Tang San and the others from taking the test." After 5 months of sinking, without the bathing of the sun, Hulaina and the other 2's skin had become a little whiter. Especially Hulaina, she looked more beautiful and charming. Especially the confidence brought by the improvement of her soul force, which made her now charming by 3 points. But how did Teacher stop Shrek's 7 monsters? Evil Moon asked curiously. It's been more than 5 months. Why are they still on the 50th floor? It was just early in the morning, and the sun had just risen from the west. At this time, the three of them saw Pope Tiff Wang Wu land from the top of the mountain. Then he released the original Sin domain and Soul Force pressure and walked directly toward Tang San and the others. In less than half an hour, they were all paralyzed on the spot. Seeing this, the three of them suddenly understood. Teacher is amazing. Yan's eyes lit up. He actually used this method to destroy them and make them unable to persevere. He can also make them unable to break through the stairs of Sea God's light. If this continues, they will either persevere and retreat from Sea God's mountain, or they can't climb the stairs and fail the test. Evil Moon and Hulaina naturally thought of this. For a moment, they admired Pope Tiff's method even more. But this should be very difficult for Teacher, Evil Moon thought. If he accidentally kills them and breaks the rules of Sea God's Island, the High Priest Possessee will definitely take action against Teacher. At that time, it will be dangerous. Believe in Teacher. This is very easy for Teacher. Yan's eyes flashed with admiration. The three of them naturally knew in their hearts that it was very difficult to stop Tang San and the others from taking the test, because they couldn't kill them, which was equivalent to breaking the rules of Sea God's Island. But they could interfere with it, but interference was a skill, so it was very difficult. Now that Sir Pope Tiff used this method, it could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Into this chapter. Chapter 751. Although this method is good, Hulaina looked at Tang San and the others with some hesitation. But it may also help them indirectly. The premise is that they can persist under the double impact of Teacher's attacks. That should be impossible. It's okay if it's a day or 2, but it's a month or 2. Yin shook his head and said, I can't hold on. It's more difficult than when we were in the deep sea. You guys, Teacher always suppressed them until they reach the 0 point. And Teacher's original Sin domain is too terrifying. I don't want to experience it at all. It's more terrifying than being in the dark deep sea. It was true. Anyway, Teacher's method and means are the best. Hulaina also shook her head. If Tang San and the others can really persist, I can only say that their talent and wisdom are really extraordinary. The three of them didn't believe it. After only 2 days of observation, they went to the second test. In contrast, the second test was much easier than they imagined. The second test, kill 10 sea beasts around the Sea God's Island without using soul skills, starting from 10,000 years. This test should take a lot of time, but Wang Feng had no way to help them. The three of them had to rely on their own strength to do this. Wang Feng still destroyed Tang San and the others every day. In addition, Wang Feng slowly climbed the stairs after the 90th floor. In fact, every time he climbed the stairs from the bottom of the mountain, it was a kind of training for him, so he had been storing or compressing his soul power. His body also became stronger, and the more he went up, the more Wang Feng had a hunch that the last floor would be a huge test. Wang Feng didn't know the details, but it was definitely very abnormal. 2 months later, under Wang Feng's pressure, except for Xiao Wu, Shrek's 7 monsters all broke through to rank 70 and obtained a God-given soul ring. And it had only been less than 7 months since then. The one who improved the most was Bai Qinxiang, because her level was extremely low. Under this kind of pressure, as long as she persevered, her improvement was very terrifying. This was also the reason why Tang San and the others had completely recognized Bai Qinxiang. She was able to persevere under this kind of torture. As men, they naturally couldn't fall behind, especially Ma Hongjun. He gritted his teeth every day and persevered. What terrified the 9 of them the most was that no matter how strong they became, Wang Wu was still able to rely on his domain and soul power to squeeze them to the point that they were paralyzed on the stairs, unable to recover even after a long time. Fortunately, there was an energy storm at night, which allowed them to quickly absorb and recover their strength. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to fully recover by the next day. Just like that, for 2 months, the 9 of them did not break through a single step. Tang San was still on the 110th floor. The others didn't change at all. Although the steps remained the same, everyone was waiting for an opportunity in their hearts. This was because they could feel that they had become incomparably powerful. As long as that white-clothed Popetiff did not appear tomorrow, they were even confident that they could rush to the 140th floor in one go and directly complete the test. It could be said that for the past 2 months, these 9 people had lived every day in pain and happiness. But they gritted their teeth and persevered. 2 months later, Wang Feng finally arrived at the 999th level, the 999th floor. Wang Feng stood on the stairs and looked at the remaining 2 steps. He could even see the white, jade-like sea god palace in the distance. Pure, beautiful, and dignified. The sea god palace was much more dignified and majestic than the Rakshasa mystical palace that Wang Feng had seen. Wang Feng did not have much confidence in the remaining 2 floors. The pressure brought by the light of sea god on the 999th floor was not inferior to that of the 5,500 meters deep sea. Midway, Wang Feng secretly used various forms of enhancement on himself. Other than the Dark Angel Martial Soul, he was already in full condition. The Dark Angel Martial Soul was too evil. Once it was released, the possessee would immediately sense it. After all, this was not the 5,500 meters deep sea. But Wang Feng still did not have the confidence to step onto the 1,000th floor. After thinking for a long time, Wang Feng turned his palm and directly used the innate 5-element flags. His domain suddenly appeared. The vast white world seemed to be the opposite of the black of the original Sin domain. Under the enhancement of the innate 5-element domain, Wang Feng's body was suffused with a layer of faint light and received a great enhancement. Without any hesitation, Wang Feng stepped on the 1,000th step. In an instant, the entire sea god mountain seemed to tremble. Endless light of sea god crazily squeezed toward Wang Feng. Wang Feng groaned. Layers of fine cracks began to appear on his body, and dense blood seeped out. The 1,000th floor was a qualitative change. Although Wang Feng was invincible in the innate 5-element domain, this invincibility was immunity to damage, and it was impossible to be immune to this boundless pressure. But with the enhancement of the Golden Lotus and the innate 5-element domain, his recovery ability was greatly enhanced. His body began to recover rapidly. The soul power in his body was like the sea that had countless holes opened and crazily flowed out. At the same time, his mental power also suffered a huge impact. On the 1,000th floor, the pressure of the light of sea god seeped into his body and brought a great impact to his soul. Sure enough, the 1,000th floor is a qualitative change. I wonder how terrifying the last floor is? Wang Feng could not imagine. Under this impact, he only lasted for about 10 seconds before he was directly sent flying by the light of sea god. His soul power was exhausted, and his mental power was close to exhaustion. But in the end, he still made it to the 1,000th floor. Wang Feng was a little doubtful. Would the 1,000th floor bear the complete light of sea god? The light of sea god was the power given by the sea god. Tang San and the others only bore a small part of it. It could be seen from the increase of 10% with each step. The light of sea god gradually became stronger with each step. Therefore, Tang San and the others only bore a small part of the light of sea god. On the last floor, they had to bear the complete light of sea god. Even if the light of sea god was just a power casually set up by the sea god, it was still a part of the sea god's power. Could humans bear the power of the sea god? In the first 900 floors, Wang Feng felt that passing through the light of sea god was easier than passing the previous 2 floors. It was not until these 2 months, when he gradually reached the last 2 floors, that Wang Feng realized the horror of the light of sea god. What the hell is the sea god doing? Why did he give me such a difficult test? Wang Fengxin could not help but curse in his heart. Could it be that you think so highly of me? But what's the use? I won't inherit your godhood. What's your purpose in torturing me? Wang Feng was speechless. After falling from the 1,000th floor, Wang Feng knew that it was impossible for him to reach the last floor no matter what. The 1,000th floor had already emptied him. If he reached the 1,000th floor, GG. In a chapter. Chapter 752. At this moment, Tang San and the others, who were recovering on the steps at the foot of the mountain, saw Wang Feng fall from the sea god mountain. Brothers, that Wang Wu can't make it. Charge! Ma Hongjun suddenly jumped up and roared. He didn't do much damage to us today. I knew he would definitely want to break through to the highest level. Now he has failed. It was really late at night. Although the 9 of them had gone through a lot during the day, Wang Feng didn't destroy them like usual because he wanted to break through to the highest level today. Therefore, they had recovered quite a bit. At the same time, they were waiting quietly because today's situation was obvious. After 2 months, this Wang Wu was definitely going to break through to the highest level. That was why they were merciful. They had been waiting for Wang Wu to break through to the highest level. Although they couldn't see it, whether it was success or failure, it was their best opportunity. When the sea god mountain trembled just now, it seemed to be a sign. Now, at this moment, it was finally here. The emotions that the 9 of them had been holding back for 2 months completely erupted at this moment. Powerful auras suddenly erupted from the 9 of them. They were almost flying. The 9 of them had stopped at the steps for 2 months and rushed up crazily. That kind of carefree feeling invaded everyone's brain. Every cell in their body seemed to be jumping. The leader was Tang San. His eyes flickered. The soul bone domain was useless. He directly broke through to the 110th level in one breath. But as if he didn't feel anything, he rushed up again. It was too easy. It was too easy compared to Wang Wu's original sin domain and soul power pressure. The light of the sea god on these steps didn't have any pressure at all. Tang San shouted in his heart. Sure enough, these 2 months of perseverance were worth it. In one breath, Tang San rushed up to the 300th level. After the 300th level, Tang San released the soul bone and obtained the powerful 100,000-year blue-silver true body. He released his domain again and directly broke through to the 340th level. Although the last 10 levels also gave Tang San a lot of pressure, it still couldn't compare to Wang Wu's suppression that made people at the point of life and death. But when Tang San rushed to the destination of the assessment, the 350th level, a voice clearly sounded in his mind. It indicated that he had passed the first test. However, what Tang San felt ridiculous was that he felt as if he could still go up a few steps. At the same time, Tang San looked at the bottom of the stairs. Zhu Zhuqing was the fastest to reach the 160th step, successfully completing the test. In fact, he kept going up until he reached the 300th floor. It had far exceeded her original goal of taking the test, 160 floors. It wasn't far from him. As a support type, Ning Rongrong had also reached the 160th floor because she was also a 7th-tier player. However, it wasn't easy for her to reach the 160th floor. In terms of physical strength, Ning Rongrong was far inferior to Zhu Zhuqing. As for the others, Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun, they had also reached the 140th floor. The food-type Oscar was much weaker, but he still slowly reached the 140th level. Behind him, Shan Lingqi directly broke through the 100th level. She even walked 10 more levels. Her soul power rank had already broken through rank 60 and reached rank 67. She had the second biggest increase in soul power. In these 7 months, the one who improved the most was naturally Bai Qinxiang. Because her soul power rank was the lowest, she directly reached the 80th floor and her soul power rank reached rank 61. For her 5th soul ring, she chose a flying-type aquatic soul beast. For her 6th soul ring, Bai Qinxiang chose a God-given soul ring that allowed her to improve her strength the most. The reason why she was able to improve so much was because her soul power rank was too low. In less than half an hour, all 9 of them reached the corresponding positions and passed the first test. This situation made everyone a little dazed. It was probably the feeling of 10 years of hard work on the stage for 10 minutes. The huge success that had been ravaged for the past 2 months had been completely unleashed in less than an hour. Everyone quietly looked at the moon in the sky. It was a little unbelievable. The 1-year time limit was reached in 7 months, and everyone's improvement was incomparably huge. Tang Sen went from rank 68 to rank 78. Dai Mubai reached rank 75. Zhu Zhuqing reached rank 77. Ma Hongjun and Oscar both reached rank 73, and Ning Rongrong reached rank 73. Everyone had increased by almost 10 ranks. There were around 8 ranks that had been raised in the last 2 months. It's too terrifying. Are these really our results in 2 months? Ma Hongjun muttered as if he had not regained his senses. It was as if he was still in the midst of being ravaged for 2 months. If I could do it again, I definitely wouldn't choose to be ravaged by that Pope Tiff. Oscar shook his head with lingering fear. Not to mention 2 months, I don't want to be ravaged for even a day. That domain is too terrifying. There were 7 different emotions in the original Sin's domain. They would attack the people within the domain, and their minds would naturally suffer immense pain. It was an extremely terrifying test for one's willpower. Everyone nodded in agreement. If they could choose again, they would rather give up this rank 7 than be ravaged like that. Where's Wang Wu? Did he fall into the sea? Ma Hongjun placed his hands on his waist, looking high-spirited. He seems to have failed to reach the highest level, right? Ha ha! He. Logically speaking, I still want to thank him. Ha ha! The other 9 laughed. However, looking at the situation just now, it seemed like he did fall from the mountain into the sea. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing suddenly rushed up a few more levels until she was about to reach the 333rd level. Bang! Zhu Zhuqing was suddenly repelled by the light of Poseidon. Seeing this, the 8 of them were stunned. Zhu Qing seems to be planning to try again. Tang Sen smiled and shook his head. I also feel that she seems to be able to go up a dozen more levels. 330th level. She's very powerful. Zhu Zhuqing fell into the sea from the 333rd level. However, no one was worried. Only Ning Rongrong frowned slightly. A light flashed in her eyes. She curled her lips and did not say anything. As for Zhu Zhuqing, who had fallen into the sea, she immediately started swimming, searching for the figure that had fallen from the sea. After a short while, Zhu Zhuqing found the figure she was looking for. At this moment, Wang Feng was on the shore, using his soul power to evaporate the seawater on his body. When he fell just now, he did not have much soul power left. It seems like it's time to absorb the God-bestowed soul ring. Otherwise, it's impossible to reach the last level. Wang Feng dried the seawater on his body and thought. Tang San and the others should have passed the test by now. At this moment, Wang Feng's eyes suddenly widened. He saw a beautiful figure rushing towards him. Why did she come down? P.S. Cough cough, it's a little late. Please count the tickets, then good night, and a chapter. Chapter 753. Wang Feng didn't expect Zhu Zhuqing to come down at this time. Zhu Zhuqing's speed was very fast. Even though she couldn't withstand the light of the sea god and expended her soul force when she reached the 330th level, her speed was still extremely fast due to the improvement her body had received over the past 5 months. And when Zhu Zhuqing, like a night elf, flashed past a black shadow and threw herself into Wang Feng's arms, Wang Feng was stunned. Wang Feng felt Zhu Zhuqing's body was strong and big. Cough. Wang Feng felt a little stuffy in his chest and took a step back. Before Wang Feng could react, the mask on his face was removed. Immediately after, a slightly cold and soft feeling was transmitted from his face to his brain. Wang Feng quickly held Zhu Zhuqing's shoulders with both hands. What are you doing? I haven't even admitted it, and you're already here? They can't see. Zhu Zhuqing's soft voice sounded in his ear. Her warm breath tickled Wang Feng. Wang Feng, you don't need to hide. I know your identity. My heart won't lie to me. Otherwise, you would have pushed me away. Wang Feng was silent. His heart was even glowing faintly. This was the effect of the meteoric tear. Indeed, Wang Feng felt that the meteoric tear also had a special feeling. It was a feeling of being connected to the heart. Why did you come down? Wang Feng pushed Zhu Zhuqing's body away slightly. However, he felt that she was hugging him a little too tightly. He didn't push her away and let her hug him. From the surface, the two of them were pressed together and were a little squashed. I missed you. Zhu Zhuqing looked up. Her face was red and her eyes were a little blurred. These 2 months, every time you walked past me, I felt like you were talking to me, but I was afraid that you would be recognized if I opened my mouth. Wang Fengxin thought that the meteoric tear had such an effect. No matter how good his disguise was, it was useless. How long are you going to pretend? Zhu Zhuqing stared at the face that she had been thinking about day and night. Her face became redder and redder. It must be a big burden for you to pretend like this, right? Did you fail to break through the last level just now? Wang Feng shook his head. He didn't even attempt to break through to the final level today. He only failed at the 1000th level. Did you do that on purpose? Zhu Zhuqing buried her head in Wang Feng's chest. She held Wang Feng's chin and listened to his heartbeat. It was the same heartbeat as her own. It was a sense of harmony, as if they were one. It made Zhu Zhuqing tremble all over. They've all misunderstood you. They all want to slap your face. Are you angry? Zhu Zhuqing whispered. What are you angry about? Wang Feng thought for a moment. That's exactly what I want you to think. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to hold on for 2 months. Zhu Zhuqing, then when are you going to stop pretending? Zhu Zhuqing suddenly raised her head and looked at Wang Feng. And the way the Holy Virgin of the Martial Spirit Palace looked at you. At this point, Zhu Zhuqing hugged him even tighter. Every time I see the Holy Virgin looking at you, I want to kick her away. Zhu Zhuqing's voice was sour. Wang Feng, you've become the White Pontiff in the Martial Spirit Palace. Are you really going to leave us? But after saying that, Zhu Zhuqing probably felt that her question was a bit stupid, so she muttered, You can't do that. Wang Feng smiled and looked at Zhu Zhuqing's angry face. He wanted to say that even if he didn't stay in the Martial Spirit Palace, he would leave one day. But it was too sad to say that, so he just let it go. And the young master of the Martial Spirit Palace, Qianren Xue. I heard from third brother that she's also a great beauty, Zhu Zhuqing said faintly. You even fought with third brother and senior poison Douluo to cover her retreat in Heavendo City. Did you do that because of her? Wang Feng coughed. Why are we talking about that? But that matter was too complicated. He couldn't explain it to Zhu Zhuqing. You disguised yourself as the White Pontiff in the Martial Spirit Palace. Is it because of those 2 girls? Zhu Zhuqing whispered. I know I'm a little narrow-minded, but I can't help but think so. Absolutely not, Wang Feng said. Then why? Why did you enter the Martial Spirit Palace? Why did you become the White Pontiff? Why did you stay with those 2 girls? Zhu Zhuqing felt that she had a lot of questions, but she suddenly leaned into Wang Feng's arms. Ugh, I won't ask. I know you won't tell me now. Wang Feng didn't say that he wouldn't tell Zhu Zhuqing. In fact, it wouldn't make much sense to tell her. Bibidon would become a god, and he would come to see God's island in 3 years. I'll tell you too, in 2 years. Wang Feng's eyes flickered. Right now, he didn't know the situation on the continent. The Martial Spirit Alliance should have been established. How were the 2 empires and the 3 great sects? He knew nothing. He could only become stronger in 2 years to prevent any accidents from happening. You said, Zhu Zhuqing raised her head and looked at Wang Feng. Then, 2 years later, can you make a choice? Between me and Rong Rong, who will you choose? Or do you want to choose the Holy Maiden of the Martial Spirit Palace and the Qianren Xue? Wang Feng was speechless. Why did she ask this question again? And why did she have to add 2 more girls? Wang Feng, my mind is in a mess. Because everything you've done is too scary, Zhu Zhuqing murmured. I don't know what you want to do, but one thing won't change. I like you. Yes, it's too scary. Even if the other party didn't admit his identity, Zhu Zhuqing thought about it carefully. In the past year, the other party became the White Pontiff and directed a series of events. It was very scary. What did Wang Feng do in the Martial Spirit Palace? How did he reach such a high position? How did he get an important position? Even if one day You really become a super bad guy. Zhu Zhuqing stared at Wang Feng and whispered, I like you too, and it's not just like Zhu Zhuqing silently said in her heart. Yes, I like you too. Wang Feng thought for a while and said, Really? Zhu Zhuqing was stunned. Her face became redder and redder. Her face was filled with surprise. Her eyes were overflowing with affection. This was the first time she heard such a positive answer from Wang Feng. But then, Zhu Zhuqing asked again, What about Rong Rong? I like her too. Wang Feng said. Zhu Zhuqing was stunned. Her mind went blank. After a while, you, Zhu Zhuqing stammered. How can you? I don't like either of them. Wang Feng thought for a while. No. Zhu Zhuqing stamped her foot and said angrily, Wang Feng, you can't be fickle. You can only choose one. No one wanted to share their beloved with others. She naturally didn't want to. End of chapter. Chapter 754. But I'm a fickle person. Wang Feng pondered for a moment and said, I can't give up either of you. If I really have to choose, one of you will be very sad. Then I might as well tell you the truth. I won't choose. This way, everyone can be sad together, and we can also be companions. Besides, Wang Feng wasn't sure if he would leave this world. 5 years ago, Wang Feng didn't know the extent of Zhu Zhuqing's feelings for him. Zhu Zhuqing had been silent. It was only when she couldn't hold it in the Pope's palace that Wang Feng suddenly woke up. Their feelings were so deep. I didn't really flirt with her. Sigh, is it because I'm too handsome? When they met for the first time, Zhu Zhuqing discovered me with the help of the meteoric tear, although he had been trying to fool her. Wang Feng didn't have much experience and didn't have any love in his previous life. In the end, he found that he couldn't fool her at all. Not only love, Wang Feng could talk about others, but when it came to himself, Wang Feng felt that he had always been a person who followed his heart. Seeing that he always chose a banana skin, he might as well tell her the truth. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Wang Feng in a daze and did not say anything. Her heart was filled with panic. However, she seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, But you said that you would choose whoever is older. I'm older than Rong Rong. After saying this, a blush spread from Zhu Zhuqing's snow-white neck to her whole body. No, you're the same age. Wang Feng shook his head and said, Rong Rong's is not small. Speaking of this, Wang Feng paused. Zhu Zhuqing stared at Wang Feng. How do you know? Her eyes were faint. Did you and she already, and you said you touched it? When you and Rong Rong went back to the seven-treasure glazed tile sect that day, did you already? Zhu Zhuqing's voice became softer and softer, and her eyes were misty. Wang Feng. Of course he didn't touch it. Wang Feng shook his head and said, You're thinking too much. She hugged me before. I can feel it. It's just that her clothes don't stand out. Forget it. Let's not talk about it anymore. They're here. As she spoke, she tried to push Zhu Zhuqing away. Zhuqing, I'm a playboy. Wang Feng thought about it and said, If you force me to choose, I won't be able to choose. So, don't say it. Zhu Zhuqing turned around and said stubbornly, I will be older than Rong Rong. Wang Feng. Hey, don't be so stubborn about this. That wasn't the point. Even if you're older than Rong Rong, it is impossible for me to choose you. Wang Feng was a little speechless. It was either all or none at all. Only children would make choices. Wang Feng had never wanted to make a choice. At this time, Tang San and his men also came up from the foot of the mountain. They all looked like generals who had won a battle. Of course, they soon saw Wang Feng standing on the shore. At this time, Zhu Zhuqing turned around and said lightly, What a pity, Wang Wu. Your plan has completely failed. Are you angry? After saying that, Zhu Zhuqing winked. She was also a little drama queen. Wang Feng glared at her and put on the mask. Just now, she had secretly kissed him, and now she turned around and began to act. These girls were really born with a talent for acting. Maybe it was because his words just now made Zhu Zhuqing feel a little uncomfortable. So now her performance was as smooth as silk. Soon, Tang San and the others came over. Senior, you have a noble character and unquestionable integrity. Although you are our enemy, You have helped us and allowed us to complete the assessment in advance. Tang Sen looked at the white-clothed Popediff with a sincere expression. Here, on behalf of us, I thank you for your help. Tang Sen was serious. He was really grateful to the white-clothed Popediff. Even from the enemy's point of view, Tang Sen was also very grateful to him. This was not sarcasm, but a slap in the face. It was a sincere gratitude. Tang Sen felt that he was not a narrow-minded person. From the other party's point of view, as the white-clothed Popediff, he should have stopped him. There was no doubt that their positions were different. But Tang Sen still admired the white-clothed Popediff in his heart, even if the other party was a pawn of the martial spirit palace. Xiao San, he wanted to kill us. Why are you thanking him? Dai Mubai and the others were not like Tang San. They all laughed. That's right. Ning Rongrong walked to Zhu Zhuqing and curled her lips. Wang Wu, are you angry? We were not defeated by you. Instead, we became stronger. If your Pope knows, she will suspect that you are deliberately helping us, right? Is it a slap in the face? Ning Rongrong giggled. Wang Feng's heart trembled slightly as he glanced at Ning Rongrong. This silly girl. He didn't expect that his casual remark would actually hit the nail on the head. Wang Feng was silent for a while. He said slowly, "It's your own ability to survive. Why should I be angry? It's my mission to stop you, but it's not under my control. You want to slap me in the face and make me angry with your childish behavior? Don't you know if you're qualified?" Then, Wang Feng snorted lightly. A boundless aura suddenly spread out. Everyone was stunned at first. Then, their expressions changed. They felt an even more powerful force pressing down on them. Seeing this, they all lowered their heads in shame. The 9 of you together can only be trampled by me. Wang Feng's voice was flat, as if there was no emotion. Who gave you the confidence to slap me in the face? If you have the time, you might as well cultivate. Otherwise, you will be buried in the sea when you leave Sea God's Island. As soon as he said that, the 9 people groaned and took a few steps back. Their faces were pale. Wang Feng looked at the 9 people and shook his head. He did not speak anymore and continued to walk forward. Seeing this, the 9 people looked at each other and did not say a word. The surprise of passing the test instantly cooled down. Yes, what strength do I have? What strength does he have? For this Popediff King Fifth, using his domain and soul power to crush them every day was just a casual thing. It was not enough to reach the apex. Perhaps the other party did not even use any strength. What qualifications do we have to slap him in the face? Thinking of this, except for Tang San and Zhu Zhuqing, the rest lowered their heads in shame. Tang San smiled. At first, this was just a method he used to motivate the 7 people. It was indeed a little childish. In addition, after 2 months of torture, a lot of negative emotions were suppressed in their hearts. Therefore, they lost the ability to judge Popediff King Fifth. After passing the test and obtaining a huge increase in strength, a lot of their negative emotions dissipated. They were also much more clear-headed. I feel that we were a little stupid before. Ma Hongjun shook his head with a wry smile. Third brother, you did a good job. You can calm down and sincerely thank the other party. Think about what kind of person this King Fifth is. How could he be angered by us? This is just the pressure that he casually exerted. Even if he defeated Senior Sword Douluo and caused Senior Sword Douluo's strength to increase, he still didn't let him go. He left peacefully without the slightest ripple. What's the big deal about our small fights? Everyone nodded in agreement. After this incident, everyone seemed to be in a better mood. End of this chapter. Chapter 755. We were too arrogant. Dai Mubai sighed and suddenly said, "When he was patrolling the world, I saw this Popediff. Later, I heard from the people of Martial Spirit Palace that this person's cultivation method is very special. He absorbs all kinds of emotions to cultivate. His martial spirit is very magical. Now that I think about it, we thought he was trying to destroy us, but in fact, we were already used by him." Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Even Tang San was stunned. Think about it. Every time we saw this Popediff Wang Wu, how strong were our emotions towards him? Tang San's pupil shrank as if he understood something. He whispered, The stronger our emotions, the more it will help him. Everyone was shocked once again, and cold sweat immediately appeared on their backs. Yes, in the past 2 months, let alone seeing this Popetiff Wang Wu. Even if they didn't see him, the anger, fear, and many other emotions in their hearts have been lingering in their minds. Thinking about it this way, damn, isn't that too scary? Ma Hongjun quivered. So, he's been using us all this time? The more we want to slap his face, the stronger the emotions in our hearts. For him, isn't this the nourishment for his strength improvement? And it's the 9 of us. The more they thought about it, the more their scalps tingled. They thought that by enduring for 2 months, they could slap his face and make him angry. But they didn't expect that they had already been used by him. Tang San also broke out in cold sweat. He didn't think of this. To be precise, the destruction in the past 2 months had made them unconsciously produce a lot of negative emotions. It was impossible for them to think of this at all. They only thought that the other party wanted to destroy them and stop them from taking the test. In fact, it was just killing 2 birds with 1 stone. They were so proud. This Wang Wu is really terrifying, Tang San whispered. Everyone nodded in agreement. They didn't have those thoughts in their hearts anymore. In the future, when we see this white-clothed Popetiff, we must be calm. Otherwise, we will be helping him. Ning Rongrong calmed down and said calmly, "We must not be angry." That's right. The rest of the people agreed. Zhu Zhuqing. She suddenly didn't know what to say. At this moment, a figure suddenly flew down from the top of the mountain. Zhu Zhuqing said, "Possessy, Senior." Seeing this, everyone hurriedly looked over and saw Possessy land beside Wang Wu. Wang Wu, looking at the situation, you should be planning to absorb the God-bestowed soul ring now. Possessy still had a gentle smile on his face. It was as if he knew nothing about what had happened in the past 2 months. Wang Fengxin thought to himself, this Possessy really knows the situation of the sea god mountain like the back of his hand. That's right. Wang Feng nodded. I do plan to absorb a god-bestowed soul ring. Hearing this, Possessy smiled without saying anything. He opened his hand, and the golden pearl appeared before Wang Feng's eyes again. Go up to the 800th level. I'll absorb it directly. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. When he came up from a sea just now, he had already used the soul power stored in the Black Lotus to replenish it. In just 10 minutes, he went up to the 800th level. Wang Feng planned to absorb this god-bestowed soul ring under this terrifying pressure. In fact, a 100,000-year soul ring formed by a god-bestowed soul ring was much easier to absorb than a 100,000-year soul ring formed after the death of a normal soul beast. It was true. Because the god-bestowed soul ring did not have the remnant consciousness of those soul beasts, there would be no danger. As long as one's body was strong enough, they could smoothly absorb it. Zhu Zhuqing improved so quickly on the stairs of the sea god's light because of the pressure given by the sea god's light. It could stimulate the meteoric tear in her heart time and time again, allowing her to improve rapidly in the first month. This was also the reason why she could catch up with Tang San. In fact, to put it bluntly, a piece of meteoric tear was more powerful than the 4 soul bones in Tang San's body. In addition, Zhu Zhuqing had been subtly changed by the meteoric tear in the past 5 years, so her body was very strong. This led to Zhu Zhuqing being able to absorb the 100,000-year soul ring. With the help of the meteoric tear in the end, it was impossible for her to fail. Although it was much weaker compared to Wang Feng's 5th soul ring, which was nearly 100,000 year. After all, in addition to the meteoric tear, Wang Feng also had the green lotus martial soul that provided great help. After these 2 months of training, the soul power stored in Wang Feng's body, coupled with the effect of the soul ring, made Wang Feng confident that he could directly rise to around rank 75. Moreover, the age of the soul ring should be greatly increased. In the past 2 months, the power of the blood traces had also improved. It was blood red before, but after absorbing the power of the Rakshasa god and the power of the sea god, it was blood gold. With 7 blood traces activated, it was at least 25 times stronger. Tang San and the others were not wrong. While Wang Feng was destroying them, He was also absorbing their emotions through the original Sin domain to strengthen the power of the blood traces. However, for Wang Feng, this was only a slight improvement and not much. The power of the 7 blood traces was now terrifying. If it appeared together with the Dark Angel Martial Soul, there would be a huge increase. Wang Feng was a little doubtful that this Dark Angel Martial Soul could not be attached with a soul ring at all. When the time came, he would have to give it a try to know. After reaching the 800th level, Possessy crushed the golden bead and dropped it on Wang Feng's body. A golden mist spread all over Wang Feng's body. Vaguely, Wang Feng felt a special power. Possessy took a few glances and walked down. No matter how fast the absorption of a God-bestowed soul ring was, it would take a few days to see the results. She was not in a hurry. Anyway, she knew the situation on the Sea God Mountain. Possessy landed beside Tang San and the others at the foot of the mountain and said with a smile, "Congratulations, children. I didn't expect you to complete the task in half the time. Maybe you don't know the importance of the first test, but you will understand in the later tests." Possessy did not talk about what happened in the past 2 months, and Tang San and the others had no intention of snitching anymore. To be able to make such progress, it is all because of your own strength and perseverance. Possessy's gaze slowly swept across the 9 people and finally landed on Tang San. "I think you all already know the content of the second test?" Everyone nodded. When they climbed the stairs, everyone knew the content of the second test. The second test crossed this ring-shaped sea. The 9 people had different test contents and difficulties. For example, Tang San's 9 tests of a sea god could not use soul rings or soul skills on the sea. The others did not have this restriction. As the top 7 tests, Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing would use soul skills, but the power would be reduced. There would be different degrees of difficulty. But no matter what, this was not a test that could be passed by one person. End of chapter. Chapter 756. This ring-shaped sea had a diameter of 5,000 meters. The distance from the shore to the Sea God Mountain was at least 2,500 meters. Under normal circumstances, 2,500 meters would only take them less than half a minute to cover. However, this was the ring-shaped sea. Who knew how many aquatic spirit beasts were hidden in it? Since you know, Possessy tapped the ground with his scepter and emitted a golden light. Then, a ray of light flashed between the 7 people's eyebrows. Suddenly, the entire ring-shaped sea was covered by dark clouds. Lightning flashed in the sky. A storm was coming. At the same time, the golden light from Possessy's scepter flew out and covered the entire ring-shaped sea. Everyone's face darkened. This golden light was like a fog that covered the entire ring-shaped sea. Everyone knew that it had the effect of prohibiting flying. They couldn't send a letter over. This meant that they could only cross the sea. At this moment, as the sky was covered by dark clouds, the rain poured down. Under the heavy rain, countless ripples appeared on the surface of the sea. Then, many aquatic spirit beasts surged out of the sea and brought along torrential waves. They also emitted a strong aura and seemed to be a little irritable. Everyone's pupils shrank. It seemed to be harder to pass the second test in such an environment. You have a few days to rest and think about how to pass this test. Possessy smiled faintly. This is the hard condition to cross the ring-shaped sea. The content and difficulty were in front of them. At this moment, Ning Rongrong suddenly asked, "Senior Possessy, is Wang Wu absorbing the God-bestowed soul ring now?" Possessy was taken aback. He didn't hide it and nodded. "When will he succeed?" Ning Rongrong asked curiously. Possessy shook his head and looked at the Sea God Mountain in the distance. The top of the mountain was covered by the light of the Sea God. It was hazy, and she couldn't see what was going on. She didn't know either. Can he reach the 1,001st level? Ning Rongrong continued to ask. What's so special about the 1,001st level of the Sea God's light? Possessy looked at Ning Rongrong. Child, you seem to be very curious about him. However, I cannot tell you what the 1,001st level represents. That's because knowing that will not be of any help to you. I'm not sure if he'll be able to reach the 1001st floor. However, until now, no one has been able to pass through the light of the sea god and ascend to the 1001st step. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Not even you? Tang Xin asked. Possessi smiled, but did not answer. Of course, she couldn't because her assessment back then wasn't so exaggerated. After passing the trial, the light of the sea god no longer posed any resistance to her, so she didn't have any more chances to try it. Then, is it very dangerous? Zhu Zhuqing asked. It's very dangerous, Possessi said slowly. If you climb up, you either die or live. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing's heart suddenly tightened. As the hazy golden fog engulfed Wang Feng, it slowly turned into a soul ring. White, yellow, purple, and black. For colors flashed one after another. The majestic strength slowly increased. Finally, a scarlet color appeared, which represented 100,000-year soul ring. Wang Feng closed his eyes and felt the changes in this 100,000-year soul ring. The rich energy was stronger than all the soul rings that Wang Feng had absorbed so far. Thinking carefully, it had been almost a year since he absorbed the soul ring of the five-headed star dragon. He didn't expect to have his seventh soul ring in just over a year. He was still useful on the Sea God's Island. The red color of the soul ring gradually deepened. Wang Feng could feel it very clearly. As the color deepened, it meant that the soul ring's age was increasing. Wang Feng could feel waves of pressure being emitted from the soul ring. 100,000 years, 200,000 years soon, several soul bones appeared on Wang Feng's body. The power of the blood patterns was quickly activated, and he withstood the pressure brought about by the increase in the soul ring. His entire body emitted a white, jade-like luster. In the pitch-black night sky, he was extremely dazzling. I can't hold on any longer. Wang Feng felt that the soul ring's age was increasing rapidly. When it reached 750,000 years, Wang Feng felt that he couldn't hold on any longer. Every inch of his skin and bones seemed to have reached a point of zero. If it reached a point of zero, it might directly destroy Wang Feng's body. When he first started climbing, Wang Feng estimated that his limit should be more than 500,000 years. Now, it had climbed to more than 700,000 years. He had made a lot of progress. 1,000,000 years, is it really possible? In fact, there were no true million-year soul beasts in the current Douluo world. That demon whale was only close to 1,000,000 years old. If it really became 1,000,000 years old, it would probably have become a god and really crossed that threshold. Wang Feng gritted his teeth, and the energy of the meteoric tear slowly flowed out. With his current spiritual power, he could vaguely feel the energy contained in the meteoric tear and that mysterious ability. He could also accurately control the energy in the meteoric tear. The pure life, aura, and the power of the seven blood patterns seemed to be incompatible. Under the effect of the meteoric tear, Wang Feng felt his body recover slightly and continued to bear the increasing pressure of the soul ring. Until 800,000 years old, even the recovery speed of the meteoric tear couldn't keep up with the pressure of the soul ring on the body. Wang Feng knew that this should be the limit. Not to mention 1,000,000 years, even 900,000 years was impossible. And the color of the soul ring turned into an extremely dark red, slightly dyed with a wisp of golden light, very faint. It was almost impossible to see. Can it still be surpassed? Wang Fengxin shook his head and said, it should be impossible. It's really impossible for the seventh soul ring to reach 1,000,000 years. 800,000 years. Wang Feng was already at his limit. Even a meteoric tear was flowing with energy. Seeing this, Wang Feng didn't hesitate and directly absorbed this 800,000-year soul ring. The dark red soul ring with a wisp of golden light seemed to be infinitely large. It fell on Wang Feng's body and wrapped him up. It formed a red and golden light shield. The majestic energy swallowed and spat out a breathtaking light on the 800th floor. The energy that far exceeded Wang Feng's imagination rushed out from this God-bestowed soul ring. Almost in an instant, it destroyed Wang Feng's body. Fortunately, this was a God-bestowed soul ring, and there were no obstacles to absorption. Under the guidance of Wang Feng's powerful spiritual power, it quickly flowed into the main body of the azure lotus in the sea of consciousness. In the center of the river formed by spiritual power, the chaotic azure lotus emitted a faint light. The energy of the soul ring was like a waterfall, washing Wang Feng's body, breaking and reorganizing, and finally pouring into the azure lotus above the spiritual river. End of this chapter. Chapter 757. In an instant, the light on the chaotic green lotus gradually brightened. The petals, seeds, and leaves of the lotus began to flicker with their own light as they withstood this terrifying torrential power. At the same time, a green light covered the red light formed by the soul ring and formed a green light barrier around Wang Feng. Although it was green, it was a hazy and chaotic color. It looked green from close up, but from afar, it looked like a patch of chaos. Possessie squinted and stood in mid-air as she looked at Wang Wu. Her senses were blocked. She knew everything on the sea god's mountain like the back of her hand. No one or anything could escape her senses. Right now, Possessie couldn't sense Wang Wu's situation inside the green light barrier. However, Possessie could clearly sense an 800,000-year soul ring. What did 800,000-year soul ring mean? Possessie didn't know, because she didn't have a soul ring of that age. In other words, none of the titled Douluo in this world had such a long soul ring, and no titled Douluo could withstand such a long soul ring, unless they sacrificed it. However, this was a God-bestowed soul ring. Since it was 80-year-old, it meant that Wang Wu could definitely absorb it. What is his martial soul? Poseidon wanted to see through the green mist to see what was inside, but there was nothing he could do. Chaos. It was a patch of chaos. The aura emitted by the chaotic green lotus seemed to block everything. That green and chaotic light made Possessie feel that it was unreachable. It was even more terrifying than when she communicated with the sea god in the sea god's palace. Possessie couldn't understand. Perhaps only the arrival of the sea god would know about Wang Wu's situation. Possessie shook her head helplessly as she thought about how she couldn't even sense what his martial soul was in the sea god's mountain. At this moment, Wang Feng's mind was slowly becoming more and more clear. Under the cover of the green lotus, the spiritual power in his sea of consciousness became more and more dazzling. The green lotus also started to become fuller. Suddenly, Wang Feng didn't know how much time had passed. 6 rays of light shot out from the green lotus and transformed into 6 different forms, rotating in the sea of consciousness. Streams of green energy gushed out of the green lotus and washed over Wang Feng, who was wrapped in a cocoon. It seemed to be feeding back. At the same time, the 6 forms were instantly retracted. The chaotic green lotus martial spirit appeared above Wang Feng's head and emitted rays of chaotic light that enveloped Wang Feng. This green lotus was extraordinarily beautiful. Suddenly, the entire world seemed to have stopped. The flowing light of the sea god seemed to have frozen. The dark clouds, torrential rain, and lightning that had appeared with the support of the scepter in Possessie's hand suddenly disappeared. It was as if everything had returned to normal. It's been 3 months. Possessie stood on the sea god mountain and frowned slightly as he looked down at Wang Wu, who was still shrouded in green mist. An 800,000-year soul ring was many times stronger than a 100,000-year soul ring. It was not realistic for him to completely absorb it in a short period of time. Zhu Zhuqing spent 2 days absorbing the soul ring with the help of the meteoric tear, but it took her a few months to digest it. Tang Sen also spent close to 2 months absorbing the 100,000-year soul ring. 800,000 years, the first appearance of the phenomenon. What is this person's martial soul? It can actually cause the phenomenon of heaven and earth and temporarily break the power that I added. Possessie shook his head and felt that it was a little unbelievable. His 7th soul skill was his martial soul true body. The first appearance of his martial soul true body could cause the phenomenon of heaven and earth and even break the restriction that she added in an instant. It was really unbelievable. At this moment, at the foot of the mountain, Tang, San, and the others, who were still tirelessly going through the second test, returned to the shore from the sea level. They all looked at the sky in astonishment. It seemed that even the golden light curtain that restricted the sky had disappeared, and the torrential rain in the sky had disappeared. It seems to be from the Sea God Mountain. By Qinxiang pointed at the top of the Sea God Mountain, and they could clearly see a green light. Is it caused by Wang Wu absorbing the God-bestowed soul ring? It's already been 3 months. 3 months. It had already been 3 months since the second round of examinations. What kind of martial soul and soul ring could cause such a change? Everyone looked at the same time. All of a sudden, the cocoon-like cyan light shield suddenly broke apart. It was very far away, but everyone could see a little bit clearly. They only saw a green light. It suddenly shot straight into the sky from that position. The intense green light pillar seemed to illuminate the world, but no one could see the situation inside the light pillar. However, this pillar of light exuded a chaotic and majestic aura that shook the world. Brother, the aura of this light pillar doesn't seem to be much inferior to the light pillar that we used to fight with the demon whale in that sea area. It's just that the color is completely different, and the aura it emits is also different. Xiao Wu's soul came out of Tang San's soul and possessed Xiao Wu's body as she spoke in a deep voice. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. They were able to survive back then because a peerless powerhouse seemed to have appeared and fought with the demon whale. The 9 of them barely escaped with their lives. All of this information was obtained from Purple Pearl Island when they came here. Xiao Wu was protected by Tang San at that time. Although she didn't see the specific situation, her soul existed in the soul ring, so she could feel a little. So powerful. Everyone was speechless. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes flickered, and she frowned slightly. How old is this soul ring? Which soul skill is it? 7th? 8th or 9th? Everyone was a little curious. At this moment, they didn't know, and it was impossible for them to know. Because the various restrictions of the second test had been removed, they couldn't proceed with the second test for the time being. This green light didn't last for long before it slowly disappeared. A figure that was the size of a grain of rice appeared on the Sea God Mountain far away. The light of the Sea God covered the Sea God Mountain again, causing everyone's vision to be slightly blurred. It was difficult to see what had happened to Wang Wu. Possessee, who had been paying attention to the Sea God Mountain, finally saw Wang Wu's figure at this moment. After 3 months, it seemed that he had finally finished absorbing it. From the moment the green light pillar rose, Possessee knew that Wang Wu's strength had probably reached an unimaginable level after absorbing this soul ring. Half a year ago, she, as the great consecrator of the Sea God Island, naturally sensed the light pillar in the Demon Whale Sea region. It had to be said that the light pillar emitted an extremely destructive aura, which made her, who was still cultivating in the Sea God Palace, feel a trace of fear. Although the intensity wasn't high, the aura was extremely terrifying. The light pillar that Wang Wu emitted just now was not inferior. It was enough to prove that Wang Wu's strength had probably reached an extreme. Perhaps the other party's strength was not as good as hers. But even if she was on the Sea God Island, it was impossible to kill him. In her line of sight, Wang Wu's figure slowly appeared. P.S. A few more chapters. End of this chapter. Chapter 758. Poseidon saw a light that was filled with chaos. In the center of the light was an indescribable man, because no words could describe even a corner of his body. If one were to talk about his overall appearance, one could not use such low-grade words as handsome or handsome. In the past 100 years, Possessee had seen many handsome men, but none of them could be compared to the man in front of her. Possessee was a little surprised. How did this world give birth to such a peerless life? She felt an aura of life that she had never felt before. When she saw Wang Wu before, Poseidon had sensed his life force. It was pure, flawless, and gave people an aura that was compatible with nature. It was the aura of a high-level life form, which seemed to be wider than the sea. Possessi had this feeling when she looked up at the statue of the sea god. So she quickly noticed him. Although he seemed to be hiding something, Possessi felt that Wang Wu could not be an evil person. Because of this, Possessi had some understanding when the statue of the second sea god appeared on his body. But now, it was even more exaggerated than before. Bai Cixi could vaguely feel a hazy aura. To be clear, it did not feel like a person. It was more like a world of its own. This strange feeling made Poseidon a little scared. The aura seemed to have surpassed the pure life form and reached a higher level, which made people unconsciously attracted. Wang Wu stood calmly on the 800th floor, still wearing the black clothes before the light pillar disappeared. His face did not change at all, but his body had changed greatly. After the chaotic green lotus martial spirit finished absorbing the martial spirit, it transformed into its true form. Apart from returning a stream of energy, it also emitted a special light that cleansed Wang Feng's body several times. It caused some subtle changes to the dustless glass body. Wang Feng could not explain the changes, but his soul power and spiritual power had changed. His spiritual power changed from a big river to a wider river, as if it had entered a new level. In his consciousness, at a glance, there seemed to be no end to the silver mental energy. It seemed to have reached a bottleneck. Wang Feng wasn't too sure about the changes to his soul power. He could vaguely feel that the attribute of his soul power seemed to have changed furthermore, after his body had been cleansed by the light emitted by the chaotic green lotus. Even his bones had a faint green glow. His blood contained an even more majestic energy, as if a drop of blood was a space that contained a myriad of worlds. Wang Feng knew that his physique had changed, but he wasn't sure of the specific effects. But close your eyes and feel the world. Everything that happened in the world seemed a little dirty. He felt isolated and independent, as if he had transcended the world. Even Wang Feng felt that the Possessi in front of him was a little dirty and strange. He should have evolved to a higher level of life form. Wang Feng could only give such an evaluation of this body. However, this feeling was not strong. Or rather, this body that had been cleansed by the primal chaos green lotus was not complete. However, at this level, Wang Feng seemed to have gained some understanding of heaven and earth. That understanding, however, was fleeting and difficult to grasp. It tickled Wang Fengxin. Perhaps I shouldn't call it the dustless glass body. Chaotic glass body? Green lotus glass body? Wang Fengxin pondered. However, it doesn't seem complete. Let's call it the dustless glass body. It had to be said that the chaotic green lotus was very strong. It wasn't inferior to Panga's axe. However, the chaotic green lotus was too strong, and it needed to be developed slowly. Panga's axe was complete. Wang Feng only realized how strong the chaotic green lotus was when his martial soul true body appeared. Everything else aside, the light pillar that rose from the sky after his martial soul true body appeared showed that it wasn't inferior to Panga's axe. In other words, the chaotic green lotus was only a little complete now. Wang Feng thought about Panga's axe true body. It should be able to transform, right? As for the effects of the chaotic green lotus true body, Wang Feng pondered. It seemed a little strong. The effects were very simple. In his martial soul true body, Wang Feng could use two forms at will without any restrictions. However, it consumed a lot of energy. Apart from that, all his soul skills were amplified by 100%. I should be able to exchange blows with a rank 99 exceptional Douluo. It's hard to say who will win. Wang Fengxin guessed. I probably can't beat a veteran rank 99 exceptional Douluo like Possessi on the Sea God's Island. However, it might be different once I leave the Sea God's Island. The chaotic green lotus true body could use two forms. This was very terrifying. No matter which form it was, it would be a qualitative improvement for Wang Feng. Wang Feng would be invincible with any combination of the two forms. However, number 7 didn't awaken any other forms. She only had the chaotic green lotus true body. However, Wang Feng felt that the chaotic green lotus had an additional effect. It could use that mysterious light to cleanse his body and make his body stronger. His soul power and spiritual power would also become stronger. Wang Feng couldn't describe how strong it was. He felt that his soul power wasn't just soul power anymore. It was a higher level energy. The simplest change was that the energy that his body absorbed had to be compressed and purified multiple times before it could be converted into his current soul power. There were pros and cons to this, but the benefits were great. The most basic benefit was that the consumption of soul skills would be reduced and his stamina would become stronger. Wang Feng wasn't sure if the strength of his soul skills would increase, but the abilities of his 6 forms would definitely increase. The 6 forms had their own abilities. For example, the Golden Lotus various recovery abilities, the Red Lotus karmic fire burning and absorbing flames, the Black Lotus defensive light barrier, the soul-slaying spear's strong offensive strength and incurability, and the cauldron of heaven and earth's tempering of everything in the world. Every flag of the 5-element flags had its own abilities. An increase in the quality of his soul power meant an increase in these abilities. Wang Feng also thought that if he used the Pangu axe, it would be even more powerful. Naturally, his fighting strength would be greatly improved. These were the benefits. The downside was that his soul power would increase more slowly. This was because no matter how fast he absorbed the energy of heaven and earth, Wang Feng had to compress and purify it multiple times before he could reach his current soul power level. Wang Feng could only form a very small strand. Apart from that, this light cleansed his body. There was another important effect. It made him more handsome. End of this chapter. Chapter 759. However, Wang Feng didn't know how to activate this light. This time, he absorbed the 800,000-year soul ring and formed the chaotic green lotus martial soul true body. The chaotic green lotus fed back to him, causing this light to descend. Perhaps it will descend again when he absorbs the soul ring later. This was probably just Wang Feng's guess. Wang Feng gave this special light a temporary name, chaotic light, in simple and crude. His thoughts were in a whirl as he sorted out the changes brought about by breaking through to rank 70. Wang Feng put on the mask again. This time, it was as if he was wearing another world. Possessy had this feeling. Congratulations. Possessy smiled. Your soul power is at least rank 77. Your martial soul should be the most unique martial soul I have ever seen in this world. Even the strongest martial soul in the past, the 6-winged angel, may not be comparable to your martial soul. Although I don't know what your martial soul is, it seems to have many changes. You will know when the time comes, Wang Feng said calmly. After saying that, Wang Feng once again stepped onto the 1001st step. Possessy didn't force him to reveal his martial soul. She wouldn't do that. Possessy was a little curious as she watched the other party climb up the steps step by step. Would the current Wang Wu be able to take the final step? Wang Feng walked very quickly and easily. The pressure of the light of the sea god didn't seem to exist to him at all. This body that had undergone changes had faintly developed a resistance to the light of the sea god. These 800-odd steps of the light of the sea god didn't pressure him at all. Even if he reached the 100th step, there was no pressure. As he walked, Wang Feng thought that the god-bestowed soul ring should be the power bestowed by the sea god. In other words, it was given by the sea god. The stronger the soul ring, the more the sea god would consume. But thinking about it, this 800,000-year soul ring should be just a drizzle to a god, right? The god-bestowed soul ring is really a good thing. Wang Fengxin sighed. There was no resistance to absorbing it, unlike the soul rings of those soul beasts which had to be obtained through battle. I can't even find a 70 or 80-year soul beast. As he thought of this, Wang Feng suddenly felt a little sad. What should he do with his 8th, 9th, and 10th soul rings? In the current Douluo world, it was definitely impossible. Could it be that he would raise one himself? This special care would last until the end of time. Moreover, he couldn't kill it even if he had developed feelings for it. If little Qing was 1,000,000 years old, Wang Feng wouldn't have been able to kill her. Tom didn't allow it either. But now my soul power rank is increasing even more slowly. I reckon that the gap between me and Tang San and the others is widening. With such thoughts in mind, Zhang Xian unknowingly reached the 999th level. In a trance, Wang Feng suddenly felt a wave of pressure like a tidal wave. It wasn't big. With a light kick, Wang Feng reached the 1000th floor. It felt like a pressure machine was squeezing his entire body, as if it was going to flatten him. But this time Wang Feng smiled slightly. With a wave of his foot, he steadily ascended to the 1001st floor. Rumble. At the moment of landing, the entire sea god mountain trembled violently. The light of the sea god that enveloped the entire sea god mountain instantly became extremely bright. It was as if all the light had gathered on the 1001st floor. The violent tremor of the sea god mountain had obviously caused a change in this ring-shaped sea region. Countless demonic sea beasts rose from the sea surface crazily, and the scene was extremely shocking. Even the 3 sea spirit beasts that Wang Feng had just subdued came out of the water surface. Isn't that boss? How did he ascend the sea god mountain? The Blackwater crocodile said in surprise. Even the sea god mountain is shaking? Is he going to tear down the sea god mountain? Tear down your head. The whale shark's tone was very heavy and knowledgeable. As far as I know, this sea god mountain is no less than the light of the sea god. Those humans who are valued by the sea god need to step through the light of the sea god and ascend the steps. There are a total of 1001 steps, and at the last step, one may have to withstand the power of the sea god. It's already far beyond what humans can withstand. After so many years, Boss should have stepped onto the 1001st floor and withstood the pressure that he shouldn't have withstood at his age. This is why the sea god mountain is shaking nonstop. Oh, the Blackwater crocodile was enlightened. Sister Shark, you are so knowledgeable and smart. Second brother Flood Dragon, what do you think? I think what Sister Shark said makes sense, the Blood Flood Dragon said. At this moment, the Whale Shark said again, no matter how strong a human soul master is, it is impossible for him to ascend to the 1001st floor. Even that peerless human expert from the Sea God Palace couldn't do it. Do the two of you know what it means for Master to be able to ascend without dying? It means that Master has the qualifications to become a sea god, to be able to withstand the power of the sea god with a human body. This is very powerful. The Blackwater crocodile thought for a moment and said, could it be that he will inherit the sea god's deity position? But Master doesn't have much of the sea god's aura on him. Little Flood Dragon, what do you think? The Whale Shark asked. I think we are hugging onto a big thigh, the Blood Flood Dragon said. The Blackwater crocodile. That's right. The Whale Shark nodded. This means we are hugging onto a big thigh. As long as we can hold onto it firmly, this sea will belong to the 3 of us in the future. Didn't that great white demon soul shark become the overlord and have such a huge tribe because it hugged onto the sea god's thigh? The Blackwater crocodile nodded. Sister Shark had lived the longest, and what she said made sense. Back then, it was because the sea god valued the great white demon soul shark that they became the overlord and had a 100,000-year soul beast. In the tribe of sea spirit beasts, having a 100,000-year soul beast meant that the tribe had one more pillar that could support the sky. How strong can the great white demon soul shark be? The whale shark's tone was like a lemon. In the sea, they can't even defeat us whale sharks. Especially us, the 10,000 demon whale sharks, are rare and difficult to reproduce. Our strength increases slowly, but our bloodline is stronger than the great white demon soul shark. Do you know why the sea god chose the great white demon soul shark as his mount and not us who are stronger? Sister Crocodile, do you know? The Blackwater crocodile thought for a while and said, I think it should be because the great white demon soul shark is more noble and more suitable for humans to be their mounts. Sister Shark, your whale shark clan is too big. When you stand on top, others can't see you at all. Those humans are very concerned about their reputation. So when they sit on top of you, they will pay more attention to you and not the person on top of you. Of course, you're not suitable to be a mount. The blackwater crocodile's words made sense. When the whale shark carried Wang Feng up from the sea, Tang San and the others didn't see Wang Feng at first. Whale shark nodded in agreement and set off waves. Sister Crocodile, what you said makes sense, but this is not the main reason. Brother Flood Dragon, what do you think? I think Sister Shark and your clan are uglier than the great white demon soul shark, the Blood Flood Dragon said. The Blackwater Crocodile. End of chapter. Chapter 760. That's right. Whale Shark's tone was a little indignant. Back then, when the sea god was choosing a mount, it was purely based on who looked better. At that time, the demon soul great white shark was not considered a very strong existence among us shark-type soul beasts. But it was indeed good-looking. Its entire body was snow white, and its body was quite small. It was not that ferocious and looked more suitable to be the symbol of the sea god and the guardian beast. But our whale shark clan has always been known for being fierce, powerful, and ferocious. That's why the sea god did not choose us. After the sea god left, our whale shark clan could not accept it and caused a bloody storm in the sea. In the end, the sea god took action and suppressed us under the sea god mountain. Speaking of which, it was all blood and tears. This somewhat cruel history made the blackwater crocodile sigh with emotion. If that's the case, we have to hug Master's thigh tightly in the future. The blackwater crocodile looked at the light on the sea god mountain with some anticipation. Master said that he will find me a companion in the future. I heard that it's also a crocodile. Although our wind-winged blackwater crocodile is not strong in the sea, our species is very rare. I'm the only one left in our clan. The premise is that Master can survive. Whale shark suddenly looked into the distance. There was also a beautiful great white shark that was several times smaller than her. It was emitting an extremely tyrannical aura. It was the true demon soul great white shark king, a 100,000-year soul beast. A few months ago, those few humans, the second test was to cross this sea. As the guardian beast of the island, the demon soul great white shark naturally came to be the invigilator and obstructed them. Later on, this great white demon soul shark even became the friends of those humans. The reason was very simple. The demon soul great white shark felt the sea god's aura on Tang San. Similarly, whale shark and the other two naturally felt it too, but they would not obstruct the other party casually because there was no need. They were too strong. Once they made a move, these 9 people had no chance of passing. In this sea, the 3 of them were the overlords. Even the demon soul great white shark king did not dare to act rashly. Otherwise, the 3 of them would not be suppressed under the sea at a depth of 5,500 meters. Humph. Whale shark snorted coldly. The 3 sea spirit beasts stared at the peak of the sea god's mountain. That was related to the fate of the 3 aquatic soul beasts on the other side. Tang San and the others were also watching. Even if they couldn't see clearly, they knew that Wang Wu was climbing the last step. It was hard to imagine that the final floor would be so terrifying. If they were on the sea god mountain, they would have been instantly sent flying. Just by looking at the current momentum of the sea, one could tell. No wonder this person was able to subdue these 3 savage fellows. On the coast where Tang San was, a tall woman in white stood on the sea and looked at the top of the sea god mountain in amazement. She was none other than the great white devil shark king. However, they were able to transform into human form. This was because the great white demon soul shark race was rather special. After 100,000 years, they could temporarily transform into human form. Sister Xiaobai, you can't beat those 3 soul beasts either. Ning Rongrong giggled. It's really a spectacular day. It seems like all the aquatic soul beasts in the ocean have come out. They're all sticking their heads out. It's like a feast. As Ning Rongrong said, this ring-shaped sea was caused by the violent tremors of the sea god mountain. Those aquatic soul beasts that had been diving were all startled out of the sea. They all looked towards the sea god mountain as if they were on a pilgrimage. I can't beat them. The great white demon soul shark that was called Xiao Bai said casually To be honest, among the aquatic soul beasts, the 10,000 demon whale shark is the largest and the most powerful. It's the true overlord of the shark species. There's nothing to say. The other two are also very strong. They're not much inferior to me, especially that blood dragon. It has a very ancient bloodline of the true dragon. It can't control itself. In the sea, I can't beat them even if I use all my strength. Hearing this, the 9 people looked at each other. In the past 3 months, the 9 of them had gotten to know this great white demon soul shark from the very beginning. Then, during these 3 months, the 9 of them had used the soul beasts in the sea to train their fighting abilities while thinking of ways to cross the 2,500-meter distance. No discord, no concord. In addition, Tang Shan had the aura of the sea god, so they became friends with this great white demon soul shark. Naturally, they knew the strength of this great white demon soul shark very well. No matter what, the 9 of them could fight the great white demon soul shark that didn't use all its strength. But in the sea, it was very difficult. In fact, the 9 of them were already very strong. But in the sea, their strength was reduced by too much. Especially in the second test, there were too many restrictions. Just Tang San's soul skills were limited. Ning Rongrong's auxiliary abilities were greatly reduced, and the stronger Zhu Zhuqing's soul skills were also greatly reduced. There was also the pressure of the sea, so they could barely fight the great white demon soul shark to a draw. But in these 3 months, they had improved a lot, because they had all broken through rank 70 and obtained their martial soul true bodies. They had all become stronger. Naturally, they had to train new soul skills. But such a powerful great white demon soul shark said that they couldn't beat it. So, I'm very curious. That person, how did he subdue it? Little White looked at the intense light at the top of the sea god's mountain, and her eyes flashed with surprise. But I'm more curious now. Can he withstand the light of the sea god on the 1,001st floor? Is there anything special about the 1,001st floor? Oscar asked curiously. It should be getting stronger all the time, right? Wang Wu had reached the 1,000th floor before, but he didn't seem to have crossed the last floor. Everyone was also very curious about this. That Wang Wu had absorbed a god-bestowed soul ring for 3 months, not to mention what rank it was. But it was definitely to reach the last floor. Now, that it was so powerful, it didn't seem very stable. There should be a qualitative change, Tang San muttered. A 10% increase on one floor at the 1,000th floor, it's an unimaginable number. I feel that even a rank 99 title doll might not be able to climb up. That's right. Little White nodded and said, Master is right. It's a qualitative change. If one were to say that the first 1,000 levels were all within the limits of what a human could withstand, then the first 1,000 levels would be the limit of what a human could withstand. Then the 1,001st floor? At this point, Little White paused and said slowly, It's God's domain. It's also God's power. In other words, you have to withstand God's power. Although it might not be strong, it's still God's power. Humans and gods are different. It's not that easy to withstand God's power. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. They looked at the sky in astonishment. Zhu Zhuqing stared at him. Her heart was thumping and throbbing. At this moment, at the top of the sea god's mountain, the boundless light of the sea god suddenly exploded. Although it's a little late, it doesn't stop me from asking for votes. Good night, everyone, in a chapter. Chapter 761. The explosion was like a whirlwind, causing the glowing mist covering the entire sea god mountain to suddenly shatter. From afar, it looked as if a cloud had risen and covered the horizon. When Wang Feng stepped onto the 1,001st level, the endless sea god's mountain condensed into a projection. It was majestic and exuded an unparalleled pressure, as if it wanted to crush Wang Feng. At that moment, even with Wang Feng's current physique, he still felt a tremendous pressure. The majestic soul power in his body was rapidly depleted, and several blurry forms appeared one after another to resist this unimaginable pressure. Wang Feng immediately realized that this might really be the power of a god. Furthermore, it was just a projection. The projection raised its eyebrows, and Wang Feng's soul power was rapidly depleted in a short period of time. Several soul bones flickered with green light and appeared blurry. The green lotus chaotic divine light not only cleansed the body, but also the soul bones. After being cleansed by the chaotic divine light, the vague feeling of fusion became clearer. The four soul bones seemed to have merged into one. Under the boundless pressure, Wang Feng raised his head and stared at the projection. The sea god. If he was not wrong, it was the real sea god. However, it was expressionless, and there was only a faint projection. It was Wang Feng's first time experiencing the power of a god. Perhaps it was not even 1/10,000th of a god's power. At most, it was the power of a god. That pressure was different from the rest. From the perspective of life, it was a greater existence than the gods of the Douluo world. Then, Wang Feng stabbed his spear. It was very simple. He did not want to bear such pressure. If he kept bearing it, even he would not be able to bear it for too long. Since he could not bear it for too long, he could only break it. Wang Feng's thoughts were that simple. Once he opened the void mirror and extended the two domains, the space within 100 meters with him, as the center seemed to be enveloped by a layer of green light fog. The chaotic green lotus appeared directly, and it seemed to cover the light of the world, making it difficult for others to know what was going on inside. This was also the special characteristic of the chaotic green lotus martial soul true body. It covered the innate five-direction domain, and no one could sense the situation inside. Stepping into the innate five-direction domain was like entering another world. The originally white, innate five-direction domain turned into a faint green color under the chaotic green lotus martial soul true body's appearance. Green and black intertwined, and purity and evil seemed to merge into one. Under the two domains, the four lotus seeds of the chaotic green lotus bloomed one after another, and they turned into lotus seeds after being enhanced. The God-slaying spear. The absolute wind and thunder god spear's first move, emotion severing, transformed into a green and purple beam of light within the god-slaying spear. Wang Feng's power. At this moment, all the soul power in his body seemed to have been completely depleted. At the same time, his two domains disappeared, and so did his martial soul true body. The soul-slaying spear and the innate five-element flags disappeared as well. At the same time, the illusionary figure formed by the light of the god of sea exploded. This was what created the earth-shaking momentum that everyone was witnessing. Possessy could see it the clearest. His martial soul was special. After the martial soul true body appeared, she could only vaguely see a faint green lotus flower. She couldn't sense it. She had to step into the other party's domain. On the 1001st level, the so-called god's power was the sea god's light. It would form a sea god shadow. One had to withstand the pressure of the sea god's shadow to pass the level. This was impossible. Even Possessy couldn't withstand the sea god's light. Even if the shadow didn't have 1/10,000th of the sea god's strength, it couldn't withstand it, because it was the pressure of a god. Because of this, no matter how strong a soul master was, he couldn't reach the last level. It was good enough that he could withstand it for a while. However, Possessy didn't expect Wang Wu to dare to offend a god. He dared to attack the sea god's shadow. Was he crazy? Logically speaking, when Bai Saishi saw the green and purple spear light appear, he was shocked as if the world had been turned upside down. A person dare to attack a god? Wasn't he courting death? This would definitely anger the sea god's power. When the shadow pierced through the sea god's shadow, Possessy was even more shocked, because in terms of attack, even she couldn't break the ordinary sea god's shadow. Part of the reason was because she was suppressed. But even if she wasn't suppressed, it was impossible to shatter it in one move. How dare he? Possessy muttered. This Wang Wu's guts really broke the heavens. He even dared to offend the sea god. She was furious. As the sea god's servant, She was naturally angry when she saw the sea god's shadow being shattered. But in the next moment, the sea god's shadow dissipated and the boundless sea god's light enveloped the sea god mountain again. Everything returned to normal. Only a pitch-black hole appeared in the sky. This made Possessi vaguely understand something. She even felt like she was being awakened. Could it be that the last level isn't to withstand the sea god's power, but to defeat the sea god's shadow? Possessi was stunned. She couldn't believe it. Because in her mind, this was an immoral act. In reality, the only person who could reach the 1001st level was Wang Wu. So far, Wang Wu was the third. The first two had already disappeared many years ago, and they were both top-tier title Daw. In Possessi's mind, this level indeed had to withstand the sea god's power. She had never thought that this wasn't about withstanding, but about destroying it. Only by destroying it could one reach the last level, succeed in destroying it. Possessi stared blankly at Wang Wu, who was on the 1001st level. She stepped onto the mountain peak. She seemed to have understood something. He looked a little tired, but his posture was still very stable. At this moment, he seemed very calm as he reached the peak. It was as if he was looking at the scenery of the sea god's mountain, watching the ebb and flow of the tides and clouds. He was extremely charming and eye-catching. This person's mind is really extraordinary. He must be enjoying this moment of success right now, right? There's actually no movement at all. Possessi was full of admiration. Only by being able to do what others don't dare to do can he take this step. He's the first person to reach the 1001st level. Destruction and reconstruction, such extraordinary intelligence and methods, are really extraordinary. Perhaps in his heart, this is nothing. However, in a chapter 762, I'm so *king tired. Wang Feng looked at the ring-shaped sea around him, and his pupils seemed to have lost focus. Now that he thought about it, he couldn't help but complain. Fortunately, I guess correctly, no soul master can withstand it if I keep enduring like this. I can only succeed if I break the sea god's projection. In fact, Wang Feng's move was able to break the sea god's unconscious projection because of his soul power. If his soul power hadn't changed and was still at rank 78, he wouldn't have been able to pierce the projection. Wang Feng's soul power had become a higher-level energy form, which was why he could injure the projection. But Wang Feng seemed to have thought of something and thought, the sea god wouldn't do anything to me, right? Is he taking revenge on purpose? After all, this is just a projection, and it doesn't have any consciousness. The difference is too big. The sea god shouldn't be such a god. At this moment, a clear voice sounded in his mind. You have successfully passed the first test. Reward. All your soul rings will be upgraded to 15,000 years. Hearing this, Wang Feng was stunned and couldn't help but laugh. This reward is really trash. It's not even as good as the system's additional reward. How can the sea god still be so good? I actually passed 3 tests, and you're treating me like this? Wang Fengxin clicked his tongue. It seems that the sea god is even worse than the system. However, the increase in the age of his soul rings was very small for Wang Feng. But all his soul rings were above 40,000 years, and only the first 3 were 10,000-year soul rings. The 4th, 5th, and 6th were all 100,000-year soul rings. It seems that the road to full red soul rings is still very long. The increase wasn't big, but no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. There should be a change when they accumulated to 100,000 years. However, Wang Feng thought about it. Even if he increased by 1 or 2 ranks now, it would be more beneficial than increasing the age of his soul rings at this moment. Possessi landed not far from Wang Feng and said with a smile, "Congratulations. What's the content of your second test?" The second test. Wang Feng was silent for a while. Actually, it could be said that Wang Feng had benefited a lot from the first 3 items. No matter what the second test was, it couldn't have improved Wang Feng so much. It had been more than 10 months, almost a year. There were only about 2 years left before the BB Dawn attack. No matter what the second test was, Wang Feng only hoped that he could reach level 80 in the second test. However, it would probably be very difficult because the rate at which his soul power was increasing was simply too slow. From the fact that the reward wasn't an increase in soul power, but an increase in soul years, it could be seen the second test. Wang Feng pondered for a moment before replying. There are also two of them. However, it is impossible to complete either of them in a short period of time. Possessy was a little different. If even Wang Wu said so, then it meant that the remaining three would not be completed in a short period of time. Can you tell me? Possessy said slowly. Wang Feng nodded and explained the content of the second test to Bai Sai Shi. After hearing this, Possessy's pupils constricted. He was extremely shocked. The second test was actually about these things? How is this possible? Did this mean that the sea god had foreseen everything? Indeed, after a moment of silence, Possessy muttered, "It is impossible to complete any of them in a short period of time. Then, you need to continue cultivating on the sea god's island." Wang Feng nodded slightly. "I will not tell anyone about this test for the time being," Possessy muttered. "However, there are still many places on the sea god's island where you can cultivate. I will take you there when you have made your decision." After saying that, Possessy returned to the sea god's palace to digest what he had seen and heard in the past 3 months. This Wang Wu had overturned his perception of her over the years. Wang Feng did not continue to stay on the sea god's mountain. Wang Feng planned to meditate for the past 3 months to calm his heart and wait for the final test. Wang Feng slowly walked down the mountain. At this time, because Wang Feng had just stepped onto the 1001st level, the momentum had not completely dissipated. He could still see the scene of many sea beasts making a pilgrimage below. Wang Feng naturally noticed it too. At the same time, he also saw Tang San and the others. Because of the appearance of the chaotic green lotus martial soul true body, many of the dark clouds and thunderstorms that were destroyed, and the golden light fog on the sea slowly shrouded the sea again. These were the restrictions of Tang San and the others' test. Previously, when Wang Feng broke through the gathering of the sea beasts and climbed up the stairs, the terrifying momentum disappeared. Naturally, it was restored now. 3 months, looks like they have improved a lot. Wang Feng quickly sensed Tang San and the others on the shore. With the 2 months of hellish destruction by Wang Feng and the light of the sea god, the 9 of them had improved a lot. As a result, the content of their later tests would be much easier. In fact, it was true. In the past 3 months, Tang San and the others did not find it difficult to fight Little White and the sea spirit beasts on the sea surface. They just needed to get used to it. In the past 3 months, they had been able to cross more than half of the sea with all their strength. The remaining few hundred meters would take them at most 2 months. Wang Feng only looked at them from afar and did not pay much attention to them. With the qualitative change of the first test, the rest of the tests would be greatly shortened. 3 years should not be a problem. The only troublesome thing was the third party. Because he was one of the 9, he really passed the 1001st level. Tang San and the others had now come back to their senses. Looking at the figure, they recalled the great momentum just now. The light of the sea god suddenly exploded, and a greenish-purple light directly pierced a hole in the sky with the momentum of piercing through the clouds. Now, although the hole had been covered by the dark clouds, the scene appeared in everyone's mind. What a monster! Little White could not help but shake its head and said, "The light of the sea god that you have endured is not the real light of the sea god. Only the last level is the light of the sea god. I don't know how he did it. He can actually reach the last level. How can he bear the power of the sea god? Speaking of which, is this person your enemy? With such an enemy, it's no wonder you can improve so quickly. But it's not easy for you to survive." Little White's eyes were a little pitiful as it glanced at the 9 of them. The 9 of them looked at each other and were speechless for a moment. "Let's continue training." Tang San's expression did not change. He said in a deep voice, "Let's strive to successfully cross the shore in the remaining 2 months. Otherwise, with the strength of the other party, I can't imagine what level he will reach." Everyone nodded heavily and went back to training. End of chapter. Chapter 763. At the same time, Wang Feng arrived at the shore of the Sea God's Island. The Sea God's Island was huge. Although the commotion earlier was exaggerated, it was concentrated in the center. It did not cause much commotion on the shore. It had been 3 months since Wang Feng started to absorb the soul ring. It had been more than 5 months since Hu Laina and the other two started the second round of assessment. However, the 3 of them had completed more than half of the assessment. When Wang Feng found the 3 of them, he saw that they were killing a ferocious sea spirit beast. It was a black cuttlefish-type sea spirit beast. It was more than 10 meters tall and was about 50,000 years old. Hu Laina and the other 2 had surpassed Tang San and the others when they first went out to sea 5 months ago. However, they were now even. It could not be helped. After all, their talents were inferior. In these 5 months, each of them had increased by 2 ranks on average. Although the increase in their soul power was not as much as in the first round, their combat ability in the sea had increased by a lot. After this training, the 3 of them could better adapt to the huge increase in soul power in the first round. The 3 of them had worked hard to achieve this result. At this moment, the 3 of them were on the sea surface. One of them grabbed the tentacle of a giant cuttlefish soul beast and pulled it back from the sea as proof of their kill. They saw Wang Feng immediately. Teacher, Hu Laina ran over first. After 5 months of battle and tempering, her originally fair skin was now slightly stained with a layer of wheat color. Obviously, it was because she had been training with these sea spirit beasts in the sea every day. After all, they were in the deep sea and there was no sunlight. You succeeded? Hu Laina's eyes were bright and filled with joy. Just now, we saw an earth-shattering commotion coming from the Sea God's Island. Was it caused by you, teacher? In these 5 months, the 3 of them were immersed in the assessment and did not go to the Sea God's Island to check out the situation. Yes. Wang Feng nodded slightly. The 3 of them had performed perfectly. The assessment was to kill 10,000-year sea spirit beasts. In these 5 months, they had completed more than half of the assessment. This was also because the 3 of them had chosen 50,000-year sea spirit beasts. On average, they killed more than 1 sea spirit beast per month. It was not easy to kill a sea spirit beast in the sea. Some even had tribes. Usually, it would require repeated battles and probing before one could kill a sea spirit beast. It was just like how Tang San and the others crossed the ring-shaped sea. If he were to encounter a powerful 90,000-year or even 100,000-year soul beast, he would have to flee. Therefore, they had to analyze and study the territories of all kinds of powerful sea spirit beasts. They had to choose those sea spirit beasts that were alone and kill them. Now, he only needed 2 more. At most, he would need a month to complete the second test. This is great. Evil Moon also came over and smiled. But when he said this, his tone changed. It's a pity that Tang San and the others could survive the teacher's torture. These people, Evil Moon's tone was somewhat silent. Those 9 people are indeed very powerful, Yin walked over. Although he looked happy, his tone was also heavy. Teacher used his domain and soul power to suppress them. Every day, they were beaten to the point where they couldn't even get up, but they still managed to hold on for 2 months. If it were us, we wouldn't have been able to hold on. Although they are enemies, I still admire them. Yin spoke very seriously. In fact, Wang Feng also felt that these 3 people had the same thought. Hu Laina and the other 2 naturally knew that Tang San and the others had made it through. The most troublesome thing is that he made them. Hu Laina frowned slightly, but her tone was much gentler. She said softly, "But it's not teacher's fault. Wang Feng, we'll find another opportunity next time." Wang Feng said calmly, "You should pass the second test as soon as possible. The following test should improve you even more." He did not tell the 3 about the content of his second test, nor did he need to. The improvement brought by the first test was huge. It could be said that without the improvement brought by Wang Feng in the first test, they might not be able to pass the second test. Whether it was Hu Laina and the other 2 or Tang San and the others, because of the changes in the first test, it would lead to a series of changes in the following tests. It would make time gradually weaken. Yes. Hulaina looked into the distance and whispered, I don't know when teacher and the others will come. The teacher here was naturally not referring to Wang Feng, but BB'd on. Hulaina's test was the most test among them. There were also 6 tests, but the content of the test was not exactly the same. But the pressure they were under was the same. Teacher, can I still hug you? At this time, Hulaina tilted her head and suddenly whispered with a blushing face. Shiwei and Yin were stunned and hurried to the side, sweating profusely. Wang Feng, no. Wang Feng shook his head and said, This is the sea god's island. It's better not to let others see. Of course, this was an excuse. Otherwise, no one would have noticed when Zhu Zhuqing hugged him on the shore of the ring-shaped sea. Looking at Hulaina, Wang Feng suddenly felt a little sad. To be honest, he really did not flirt with Hulaina. However, her charm was too great. Even if he did not flirt with her, she would not notice it. Oh, Hulaina's eyes were a little disappointed, but she still said with a smile, Teacher, we will do our best. Her smile was like a flower, and her eyes were crystal clear and bright with a bit of moisture. Okay. Wang Feng thought for a moment and glanced at Shiwei and Yin. He vaguely remembered that Hulaina's ending in the original book was not good. Her brother was dead. Her teacher was dead. They were all dead. It was not an exaggeration to say that she was all alone, and even so. However, the current Hulaina was much stronger and more mature than Wang Feng imagined. She did not have the small emotions of a girl. Wang Feng chatted with them for a while about what happened in the past 3 months, and then left the 3 of them. Then, Wang Feng rested for 2 days and found Possessi again. He needed to find a good place to cultivate. Because of Wang Feng's second test, Possessi found an excellent place for Wang Feng on the Sea God's Island. Our Sea God's Island, other than the light of the sea god and the ring-shaped sea, there are many other places for training. Possessi brought Wang Feng to a valley on the Sea God's Island. This valley was not big, only a few hundred meters in size. It looked like a huge pit was created by a big fireball. However, the roaring sea water in the valley was rolling and roaring. Occasionally, monstrous waves would rise, and the boundless sea power would hit the black rocks in the valley. Those sea-colored rocks had been hit by this kind of attack for many years, and they already had metallic luster. The seawater here seemed to be different from the ring-shaped sea. There was only one word to describe it, and that was raging waves. Each wave carried a momentum of dozens of meters or even hundreds of meters and directly slammed down. Just the sound alone gave people a huge shock. End of this chapter. Chapter 764. This place is called the Furious Waves Desperate Realm. Possessi said slowly, The valley here looks like it was smashed by something heavy, but it's actually formed by the waves here. There are no aquatic soul beasts in this place because of the strong currents. It's not suitable for any aquatic soul beasts to live in. It's not difficult to be hit by the waves for a short period of time, but after a long time, one's will and body will be destroyed. But the good thing is that this place is full of energy because of the waves. It's a wonder and a dangerous place on the Sea God's Island, but it's also a treasure land. Wang Feng glanced around. This place was not bad, although the force of the waves was very strong. In fact, every time they hit, they would set off a surge of energy. This made the energy density of this place much higher than other places on the Sea God's Island. The more precious a place was, the more dangerous it was. Just like the 4 absolutes, the Myriad Elephant Valley. But in comparison, this place was not inferior to the Myriad Elephant Valley. It was just that the energy density was slightly lower. Wang Feng pondered for a moment and said, Can I bring the 3 soul beasts here? Hearing this, Possessi looked at him in shock. The 3 soul beasts are very strong, but they may not be able to adapt to the environment here. Although they can swim here through the sea, they may not be willing. Why do you want to bring the 3 of them here? Possessi was a little curious. The 3 of them are too weak. Wang Feng said, They haven't even reached 100,000 years. Possessi was speechless. The 3 soul beasts were weak, but compared to himself, they were a little weak. As long as the three of them are willing to come, of course. Possessy did not hesitate and answered directly. After speaking, the scepter in Possessy's hand trembled slightly. 9 soul rings appeared on Possessy's body, 8 black and 1 red. Among the title Douluo, this was the strongest soul ring configuration that Wang Feng had ever seen. Even Bibidon before the 8th test was not this strong. Now that he had left the Martial Soul Hall for a year, Bibidon should have become stronger. At the same time, a shadow appeared behind Bibidon. This phantom was almost the same as the phantom of the sea god that Wang Feng had encountered on the 1001st level. Evidently, Possessy's martial soul was the sea god. Wang Feng was a little speechless. It was a little too much to be reasonable. However, since it happened right before his eyes, Wang Feng had nothing to say. Suddenly, Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. He wondered if there were any experts in this world who had other gods as their martial spirits. Since Possessy had the sea god, the Azura god, the god of destruction, logically speaking, they could also become other people's soul rings, right? Rise! Possessy shouted softly. A waterfall-like blue light suddenly bloomed from the scepter in her hand and landed on the raging waves in front of her. In an instant, a violent tremor rose from the surface of the sea. In Wang Feng's line of sight, a silver-white stone pillar rose from the surface of the sea. As soon as this special pillar appeared, it was as if the air around it had solidified. The silver pillar rose until it reached a height of 70 meters before it slowly stopped. At the top, there was a small pillar that looked like a cross that was a few meters long. This is called the heavy silver pillar. Possessy said, each pillar is made of a special material and weighs at least a few 100,000 kilograms. Normally, cultivators like us would receive the impact of the raging waves on these pillars to train our bodies. At the same time, we would absorb the energy generated by the raging waves and undergo a deeper level of cultivation. But if it's you, Possessy thought for a while. This kind of training would not be very effective for someone who could reach the 1001st level. However, the energy was indeed very dense and suitable for meditation. It's okay. Besides my own cultivation, I will also train them. Wang Feng shook his head. The 3 aquatic spirit beasts had a certain amount of potential. After some development, they would not be inferior to Odontosuchus and the others. This thing weighs a few 100,000 kilograms. Wang Feng suddenly asked. To be precise, this pillar weighs more than 500,000 kilograms. Possessy nodded. Similarly, there are many of these heavy silver pillars in the raging flame desolation. This pillar is the heaviest, and its weight varies according to its length. There are also special restrictions placed on it by the sea god. If you cultivate up there, it will be several times heavier than if you cultivate on normal land. On the sea god's island, these heavy silver pillars are even heavier than the sea god's divine weapon. Possessy said slowly. Wang Feng's eyes flashed with a bright light. The mysterious underworld armor on his body had become a faint green color after absorbing the 800,000-year soul ring and being cleansed by the chaotic divine light. Even the mysterious underworld spike had become a faint green color. Its weight had reached more than 90,000 kilograms. According to normal growth, Wang Feng should only be 70,000 kilograms when he was rank 77. However, after being cleansed by the chaotic divine light, it became more than 90,000 kilograms. Coupled with Wang Feng's current spiritual power and the power of the mysterious underworld flying sword, no title Douluo below rank 98 could withstand it. It could be said that he had reached an extreme. However, Wang Feng's spiritual power had reached a bottleneck, and he could only increase its quantity. He couldn't increase its quality. Thinking back, this heavy silver pillar weighed more than 100,000 kilograms. This is too heavy. Wang Feng was a little speechless. Wang Feng didn't feel any pressure when the mysterious underworld spike was on his body. His body had also reached a limit. This is the heaviest pillar? Wang Feng looked at the heavy silver pillar in the middle. Possessy nodded slightly. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. He leaped lightly and landed on the surface of the heavy silver pillar in the distance like a streak of flowing light. This stone pillar was too big. It was several meters in diameter and looked extremely huge. I wonder if Ming would be able to move if I give him one of these pillars? Wang Fengxin thought to himself. Ming would probably only be able to crawl under it. How much was 250,000 kilograms? 250 tons. Wang Feng looked at the heavy silver pillar in front of him and thought for a moment. Then he hugged both sides of the heavy silver pillar. Boundless soul power surged out. In an instant, the sea surface under Wang Feng's feet was stirred up by the soul power surge. However, the heavy silver pillar didn't move at all. Wang Feng possessing it's too damn heavy. Wang Feng tested it and knew what it meant to be 250,000 kilograms. Even if there was the buoyancy of the sea below, it would be impossible to lift it at all. Even if he used his full strength, it would be difficult to lift it directly. The main reason was that there was no point for him to borrow strength from. It would take a lot of strength to lift it up. In fact, the pressure from a sea below 5,500 meters or the 1,000th layer of the sea god's light would bring. It was much more powerful than 250,000 kilograms. Wang Feng's body could withstand that kind of pressure, but he couldn't lift 250,000 kilograms. This could only mean one thing. End of chapter. Chapter 765. The potential of Wang Feng's current body was far from being fully developed. Another reason was that Wang Feng was not only physically strong, but his various soul skills were also too powerful. His potential was limitless, which was why Wang Feng could easily reach the 1,000th level, but he could not carry this heavy silver pillar. I need to train and develop the potential of my body. Wang Feng pondered. After being illuminated by the chaotic divine light, Wang Feng knew that his body must have been greatly improved. But these improvements were the improvement of his potential, and they all needed to be stimulated through training. They did not come out of nowhere. For the next few days, I shall train here temporarily, Wang Feng pondered, until I can easily lift this pillar of 500,000 without using any enhancements. In fact, it was a pure training of one's physical strength. If I train like this, will I become a one-punch man? Wang Fengxin thought. If he could carry this heavy silver pillar, it meant that his physical strength would reach a terrifying level. By then, any punch of his would have the strength of hundreds of thousands of kilograms. Would you be afraid? Which title, Douluo, could withstand the strength of hundreds of thousands of kilograms? Even those 100,000-year soul beasts would be smashed into smithereens with one punch. I wonder how strong the physical strength of a god is. Wang Feng decided on his training goal and did not hesitate anymore. He directly brought the 3 aquatic soul beasts in the ring-shaped sea region to the raging waves' desperation. The 3 aquatic soul beasts did not say anything. They were even a little excited. This meant that Wang Feng, as the leader, was going to train, but soon they could not be excited anymore. This was because the living environment here was a little harsh. The 100-meter-high waves crashed down on their bodies, and it hurt a little. Although it was not painful enough to make them tremble, the most important thing was that the raging waves were constantly crashing down on them. This meant that they did not have any time to rest, unless they sank to the bottom of the sea. But Wang Feng would not let them sink to the bottom of the sea to slack off. With the help of the cloud flag, Wang Feng would immediately use spiritual shock on them if they dared to slack off. At the same time, Wang Feng would also fight with these 3 guys on the surface of the sea and formulate a series of training plans for them. Just like how he trained the 4 guys in the extreme north, Alligator, Coward, Cohen, Shinbing, and Iron Fox. However, the current Wang Feng was no longer the Wang Feng of the past. His strength was many times stronger than before. So, according to Wang Feng's estimation, he would be able to train these 3 fellows to the 100,000-year level within 2 months. Don't think it's impossible. Now that Wang Feng's soul power had mutated, he was able to unleash an even stronger effect when he activated the Golden Lotus. It was even more effective than when he was in the extreme north. The weakest of these four fellows was only a blackwater crocodile over 80,000 years old. As he fought, he trained, and at the same time, he used the golden lotus to recover, transform, and mutate. Not to mention 2 months. Wang Feng estimated that in a little more than a month, the strongest 10,000 demon whale shark would be able to step into the 100,000-year domain. Wang Feng wasn't sure how Odontosuchus and the others were doing. If he had worked hard, he would have reached the 100,000-year level long ago. When they left, Odontosuchus had a cultivation of more than 70,000 years. Wang Feng also left them a large number of soul crystals refined using the cauldron of heaven and earth. After being modified by the golden lotus countless times, he still could not reach 100,000 years. Leave the group. Just like these 3 aquatic soul beasts, they asked Wang Feng why he could torture and train them. Without a 100,000-year level, you are not qualified to be my underlings, Wang Feng said. The 3 aquatic soul beasts stopped talking. The most hardworking one was the 10,000 demon whale shark, because she was extremely unconvinced by the former great white demon shark clan. She was angry, so she worked harder. Otherwise, she wouldn't be the strongest among them, with a cultivation of more than 90,000 years. At the same time, the 10,000 demon whale shark also shouldered the task of glorifying their whale shark clan. In contrast, the other 2 were even more hardworking after being modified by Wang Feng using the golden lotus for the first time. In fact, the reason was very simple. They had a goal. Under normal circumstances, without the transformation of the golden lotus, they would not be able to reach the 100,000-year level in a short time. But with the transformation of the golden lotus, it was different. Just like when Wang Feng had the meteoric tear. Now, the golden lotus was like a golden finger to them. With the golden finger, no matter how hard or tiring it was, they would be able to endure it. Humans were real, and beasts were also real. Just like before on the Sea God Mountain. If Wang Feng had only tortured Tang San and the others during the day and not caused the energy storm at night, they would have been able to recover their strength secretly. None of the 9 Tang San and the others could persevere. No matter how strong their willpower was, if they could not see hope, even if it was just a little bit, they would not be able to persevere for long. So, in less than 2 months, these 3 soul beasts had reached the 100,000-year level. The whale shark was the fastest to reach the 100,000-year level. At the end of the first month, she had already reached the 100,000-year level. It could be said that she was the first powerful existence in their whale shark clan to reach the 100,000-year level. But now, there were not many whale sharks left in their clan. The second one to reach the 100,000-year level was not the blackwater crocodile, but the Gorfine dragon. He had reached the 100,000-year level unknowingly. In terms of hard work, the Gorfine dragon was relatively lazy among the 3 aquatic soul beasts. Occasionally, it would want to slack off. In the middle of the second month, when it broke through to the 100,000-year level, 2 coral-like dragon horns grew out from the 2 lumps on its head. At the end of the second month, the blackwater crocodile also broke through to the 100,000-year level. After becoming a 100,000-year level soul beast, their cultivation speed was extremely slow. However, it was also at this time, the second test of Tang San and the others was finally completed. Their third test was called tidal tempering, and it was held in this place. For the second test, Tang San and the others took a full 5 months. The time they spent on the Sea God's Island was also exactly 1 year. It could be said that they had already exceeded the time limit to complete the test. The time limit for the second test was also 1 year. This time, they completed it a full 7 months ahead of time. The first test was 5 months ahead of time, and the second test was 7 months ahead of time. However, the time limit for the third test was 1 year. On the heavy silver pillar of the furious waves' desperate realm, they endured the beating of the tides and carried out body tempering training. What? Senior, you said that Wang Wu had already come here 2 months ago? On the way here, Ma Hongjun suddenly quivered. In other words, he is also cultivating there. Damn, isn't this like a sheep entering the tiger's den? Oscar took a few breaths of cold air. This time, Won't he kill us? No, we must calm down, we must calm down. Several people discussed in a low voice. They never thought that Wang Wu would actually train in that place in advance. Possessy smiled, but didn't say anything. Senior, is that Wang Wu's second test also in the place called Furious Waves Desperate Realm that you mentioned? Tang Xin pondered for a moment and asked. No, he's just training there to prepare for the second test. That place is a wondrous place of our sea god's island. It is very suitable for cultivation. Possessy explained. That Wang Wu is so strong. Is it effective to cultivate in that place? Dai Mubai asked doubtfully. 2 months ago, on the 1001st level of the sea god's island, Possessy remained silent. In fact, she wasn't too sure if it was effective or not, but she thought that he should have his own thoughts. Moreover, there seemed to be some changes in the Furious Waves Desperate Realm in 2 months. Possessy sensed 3 very powerful auras. She felt that it was a little inconceivable and didn't dare to think in that direction. Very quickly, everyone arrived at the Furious Waves Desperate Realm. And just as they arrived, the scene in front of them made them all stunned. P.S. There's still a few chapters. Please count the votes. This chapter ends. Chapter 766. As the raging waves surged, the waves fell like the Milky Way from the 9 heavens, hitting the waves in front of them. The 70-meter tall stone pillar was instantly submerged in the dust. In front of them, a giant sea spirit beast that was over 100 meters tall was dragging the 70-meter tall silver pillar on its back. It was slowly moving forward in the raging sea. His enormous soul power undulations were barely able to resist the waves that were crashing towards him. Every time it moved forward, there would be a torrent on the surface of the sea. The momentum was astonishing. This giant sea spirit beast was the 10,000 demon whale shark that Tang San and the others had seen before. At this moment, it was dragging the stone pillar on the surface of the sea in this extreme environment. And on the stone pillar, there was a blood-colored flood dragon more than 60 meters long coiled around the stone pillar. The dragon scales on its body emitted a dazzling blood-colored light. It roared as if it was using all its strength to bind the heavy silver pillar. However, the heavy silver pillar did not change at all. Of course, there was no change. Tang Xin looked at it with his mouth agape. He had sensed the heavy silver pillar when he first saw it. This was deep-sea heavy silver, an extremely heavy metal. It was very rare on the continent. He did not expect that there would be so much deep-sea heavy silver on the sea god's island. What was more strange was, what were they doing? Training? How could they train like this? And their aura? On the stone pillar, Wang Wu stood quietly. His body emitted a faint soul power fluctuation, which made the stone pillar seem heavier. Hurry up. Today's training has just begun. Wang Feng sat on the stone pillar. No matter how huge the waves hit him, he did not move at all. Blood Flood Dragon, if you can't bind the stone pillar with a mark today, tomorrow's training will be doubled. Wang Feng said to the Blood Flood Dragon under the stone pillar. In the distance, the Blackwater crocodile flying in the air was also being hit by the waves. Even with its huge body, it was swaying under these terrifying waves. However, once it landed on the ground, the training would definitely be doubled. It could only persevere. It had to be said that the various training in these 2 months was very useful to these 3 guys. He could feel it from the aura they were exuding. Until the whale shark dragged the stone pillar on the surface of the sea and walked around. Only then did Tang San and the others come back to their senses. This seems to be the aura of 100,000 years soul beast. Ma Hongjun stammered. When did they become 100,000 years old? Are they training? Everyone fell silent. The aura of 100,000 year soul beast was actually very easy to distinguish. Furthermore, they were still trying their best to release the soul power in their bodies for training. Possessy was silent as well. In the past 2 months, she had not come here. She had always been in the Sea God Palace. However, he could vaguely feel it. After all, when one broke through to 100,000 years, they would emit a special aura. She knew the sea god's mountain like the back of her hand, but the aura of 100,000-year-soul beast was too obvious. Possessi could sense it clearly. He just couldn't believe it. So on the way, Possessi kept wondering if he was mistaken. How did these 3 soul beasts become 100,000 soul beasts in just 2 months? Unless the sea god was alive. But now, the scene in front of him made Possessi feel a little ridiculous. How did he make 3 sea spirit beasts step into 100,000-year-soul beast in 2 months? Third brother, are we still taking the assessment here? Bai Qinxiang asked. The others all looked at Tang San. With this Popetiff Wang Wu here, it meant that this place would be extremely dangerous. Why not? Tang San asked, since he can cultivate here, and even these 3 sea spirit beasts can become 100,000-year-soul beast in just 2 months, won't we also be able to improve greatly if we cultivate here? Let's keep calm. Even if there are waves here, what's there to be afraid of? It makes sense. Everyone's eyes lit up. Although the heavy silver pillar is not a lot, it is enough for 9 people. Possessi took a deep breath and glanced at the 9 people. This furious wave's desperation is also very big. The area where he is the area where the waves are the most turbulent. The lightest waves are hundreds of meters high. You guys go to the other side later. That place is more suitable for your assessment. Everyone quickly nodded. At this time, they saw Wang Wu suddenly jump down from the stone pillar and directly shook the sea surface with his soul power. He landed on the sea surface steadily. Then, the pupils of the group suddenly shrank. They saw Wang Wu's hands land on both sides of the heavy silver pillar, and then heard a light shout. The stone pillar was lifted out of thin air. Although the speed was very slow and the distance was very short, it was lifted up in the end. Even at such a distance, everyone could clearly see that Wang Feng's muscles and blood vessels were about to explode, and they were protruding from his clothes, showing a strong sense of power. Up. Wang Feng's hands suddenly pushed up, and the heavy silver pillar was lifted up a few meters, and then fell back to the sea surface, splashing a bigger wave. After repeating this dozens of times, Wang Feng let go of his hands, and his breathing was still considered calm. Let's call it a day, Wang Feng muttered to himself. His strength was now barely enough to lift this thing up. The explosive power was still okay, but it was not enough to last. If he really wanted to use this thing that was more than 500,000 kilograms flexibly, or to let his strength reach this level, he still had a long way to go. However, after these 2 months of training, Wang Feng's physical potential had been greatly improved. Not to mention other things, just his strength alone had reached a very strong level. One punch was at least 500,000 kilograms. It was even heavier than throwing out the mysterious underworld armor. After being cleansed by the chaotic divine light, Wang Feng indeed felt very strong. When the strength of one punch was stronger, Wang Feng was confident that he could defeat titled Douluo below rank 80 and rank 99 with just his physical strength alone. However, as his strength gradually increased, it became very difficult to control, and he needed to take it slowly. Perhaps in some high-level martial worlds, Wang Feng's strength had just started, but in the Douluo world, he was already at the peak of the titled Douluo. Even those titled Douluo, who were known for their strength, might not be stronger than Wang Feng's current strength after activating their martial soul true bodies. In the first month, Wang Feng could not move this heavy silver pillar at all, no matter how hard he tried. It was only after a month that he slowly improved, and the strength of this body was also evident. Its potential was indeed very frightening. Wang Feng did not care much about the waves hitting him, and it was no different from scratching an itch on his body. Although he had scratched it for a month, it still hurt a little. However, his tolerance was also increasing, and he did not care about this little pain at all. End of chapter. Chapter 767. At the same time, he could finally lift this heavy silver pillar. However, he used an extreme burst of strength to barely lift this heavy silver pillar. It was still impossible to lift it as if it was light, but this was already abnormal enough. Senior, You said this heavy silver pillar is generally heavy? They looked at it in a daze. Then their gazes fell on Possessi. Possessi didn't answer. Instead, Tang San said, "This is deep-sea heavy silver. This kind of pillar is 70 meters tall, at least hundreds of thousands of kilograms. This one should be more than 500,000 kilograms." At this point, Tang San also fell silent. "This Wang Wu can't be a human-shaped soul beast, right? Like Xiao Wu?" Oscar couldn't help but say exaggeratedly, "Do we humans have such powerful strength? That whale shark could only drag this heavy silver pillar away. Can he lift it directly? How terrifying is his strength?" Everyone was silent. They couldn't answer this question. Possessi could answer, but he frowned slightly. How powerful was this Wang Wu's body? Even she felt a trace of palpitations. Possessi could borrow the power of the sea to make his strength reach a terrifying level. So he could easily pull this heavy silver pillar out of the sea with a ray of soul power light. And he didn't even need to use much strength. But it was impossible to do it with pure physical strength. Possessi shook his head, and several rays of blue light flew out from the scepter in his hand again, pulling out 9 more stone pillars. But these stone pillars were all about 50 meters tall. According to the difficulty of each of you, you need to withstand the waves on the stone pillars for different periods of time every day. I think you all know it yourself, so I won't say too much. Possessi glanced at everyone. I hope you can persist for a year. Everyone nodded. Without hesitation, they looked at Wang Wu, who had returned to the stone pillars in the distance, and the 3 100,000-year-old beasts who flew to the stone pillars in fear. In the distance, Wang Feng looked at the 9 people quietly. After not seeing them for 2 months, Tang San and the others didn't change much. Ma Hongjun was the only one who had changed significantly. He had completely transformed into a tall and sturdy young man, not the fat man from before. After pondering for a while, Wang Feng figured out the reason. Tang San must have given the core of the 10-headed scorching sun snake to Ma Hongjun, causing Ma Hongjun's martial spirit to mutate, resulting in such an effect. Originally, Xiao Wu's resurrection needed to be used. However, now that Tang San had been chosen as the successor of the sea god, the method to resurrect Xiao Wu was not limited to the method that Big Ming had mentioned before. Therefore, this 10-headed sun snake was given to Ma Hongjun by Tang San to increase their team's strength and pass the second test faster. Should I add fuel to the fire for the third test? Wang Feng thought for a moment and glanced at Tang San and the others. Hulaina and the others had also completed the second exam. A month ago, they had started the third exam. As for Hulaina and the others, their third test was to pass through the light of the sea god and ascend the stairs. However, with his training in the deep sea, their climbing speed should be very fast. If I add fuel to the fire, they probably won't be able to bear it. Wang Feng thought for a moment and decided to give up. At least not now. With his strength, he could easily stir up the power of the waves in this furious wave's despair and increase the power of the waves by a few points. Not to mention other things, if he let the whale sharks churn a few times, those swaying and rolling waves would immediately increase in power. Let them get used to it first. Wang Fengxin said, when they get used to it, I'll increase the power. In his sight, after the 9 people climbed up the heavy silver pillar, their expressions immediately changed. Not to mention Wang Feng. Even Tang San's physique was far inferior to theirs. However, this kind of wave was not the kind that could defeat you in an instant. Although their bodies were not as abnormal as Tang San's, even the auxiliary type Ning Rongrong's body was still very good. The biggest feature of this kind of wave was its continuous attack. As long as they held on for a while, the pain of the waves hitting their bodies would be stacked. At that time, it would be a one-sided situation. Sure enough, in less than an hour, by Qin Xiang and Shun Lingqi, who had the weakest physical fitness, fell down one after another. They could not bear it at all and flew down from the stone pillar. They lay on a black reef and gasped for breath. After another hour, Ning Rongrong and Oscar also fell down. The remaining bodies of Tang San, Ma Hongjun, Xiao Wu, Zhu Zhuqing, and Dai Mubai were still struggling to hold on. They were all soul warriors, and their physical fitness was very strong. Especially after Ma Hongjuan's martial soul mutated, his endurance had greatly increased. However, in less than 2 hours, Ma Hongjun, Xiao Wu, and Dai Mubai all fell down one after another. After another 2 hours, Zhu Zhuqing also couldn't hold on anymore and fell down. After another hour, Tang San also fell down. Everyone's faces were extremely pale, and even their skin had turned red under the impact of the sea. After the second test, their soul power did not increase by much because they had been fighting with Little Bai and other soul beasts on the sea surface. They only increased by 1 rank in 5 months, but their combat strength and physical fitness had improved greatly. But now they still could not hold on here. Their year was not completely fixed. It was calculated according to the total number of hours they had to endure. On average, the time they had to endure was not the same. But if they endured less in the beginning, they would definitely have to endure more in the end to pass the test. So after recovering for half a day, they flew up again. But this time, they did not last long back and forth. Wang Feng watched quietly, but did not make a move. He continued to train the 3 soul beasts, but when he used the golden lotus, he sank to the bottom of the sea. This kind of training consumed a lot of energy. In the end, especially after their bodies were hit by the waves for a long time, their bodies turned red. At that time, not to mention the waves, even if a drop of water fell on their bodies, it would be extremely painful, like being pricked by needles. They needed a long time to recover. Wang Feng frowned. In fact, Tang San was fine. Even if his soul power was depleted, his physical fitness was strong enough, and he could recover quickly. The rest of the soul beasts were uncomfortable, especially the girls, when they fell from the heavy silver pillar. It was a horrible sight. If not for possessing, I feel like I'm disfigured. Ning Rongrong touched her burning cheeks and said painfully, "What kind of test is this? It's so perverted." Her skin was red all over. How could she be fine after being hit by the sea for a long time? Even Zhu Zhuqing, who had a strong physical fitness, was the same. Under the pressure of the light of the sea god, there was still a warm current flowing out from her heart to heal her body. End of chapter. Chapter 768. But now, it did not happen often because her physical fitness was already strong enough. The main thing was that this kind of beating made it difficult for her to reach her limit. It was just that it was a great test for the body. The other two, by Qin Xiang and Shun Lingqi, were the same. But even so, the 4 of them still persevered. About 2 months later, the 9 of them had made a lot of progress. In the 4th month, they were able to persevere on the stone pillar for a fixed time every day. In the 5th month, the 9 of them could easily persevere on the stone pillar for a fixed time. Their progress was getting bigger. On this day of the 6th month, Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing walked together and came to the New Lang Despairs. Tang San, who had a longer assessment time, had already persevered on the stone pillar for a few hours. They were the top 7 examiners, so the assessment time was often shorter. They did not need to stay on the stone pillar all day, and there was still a chance to rest later. But at this time, their bodies were redder, no longer as white as before. There was no other way. Under the beating of the sea for a long time, it was impossible to maintain the original smooth and white skin. But after this period of time passed, they should slowly recover. The benefits of 6 months of training were naturally their bodies gradually becoming stronger. There was no doubt about this. That Wang Wu seems to have been very well behaved all this time. Ning Rongrong laughed a few times. Has he already given up on stopping us? Has he been subdued by our tenacious will? Rongrong, I feel that you have a bit of a crow's mouth, Shun Lingqi whispered. That's right. Bai Qinxiang also nodded. Rongrong, don't jinx it. When you say this, I feel that Wang Wu will not let us go so easily. Ning Rongrong curled her lips and said, Look at his abnormal training method. He has no time to care about us. That pillar is 500,000 gene. He must be training here to reach a certain level, such as lifting that pillar as a weapon. How is this possible? No matter how long he trains, it will be difficult for him to do it. Maybe one day, if he makes a mistake, he will be directly crushed by the heavy silver pillar. When the time comes, everyone will celebrate. After saying that, Ning Rongrong hurriedly spat a few times. I can't have any feelings for him, in case he uses us. Zhu Zhuqing, Shun Lingqi, and Bai Qinxiang looked at each other and smiled. Ning Rongrong suddenly looked at the sky and said with some sadness, "Why didn't Wang Feng come find us?" Fortunately, he didn't come. Otherwise, if he saw my ugly appearance, that bastard would definitely kick us. That Wang Feng you spoke of shouldn't be such a person, right? Bai Qinxiang could not help but ask, Rongrong, I heard you dreaming last night. In your dream, you said that Wang Feng would never abandon you. Why would he dump you just because you became ugly? Did I have that dream last night? Ning Rongrong said in surprise. Fortunately, her body was now very red, and the blush on her face could not be seen. Ning Rongrong pretended to be gentle and said, Dreams and reality are the opposite. If I become ugly, that bastard Wang Feng will definitely cast us aside. He was not interested in ugly and small girls at all. Don't I know him well? Shin Lingqi covered her mouth and said with a smile, If he is really that kind of person, why do you always think of him and talk about him? Ning Rongrong thought for a while and said, Who asked me to like him? Hearing this, the two were stunned and did not know what to say for a moment. Zhu Zhuqing was silent for a while. Her eyes fell on the distance, where Wang Wu was holding the heavy silver pillar and walking back and forth in the water. I say, Xiang, don't waste time. Come quickly, I'll carry you up. At this time, Ma Hongjun walked over from the other side and said with a smile, Now that I am not fat, let my hot body absorb the color of your skin. Saying this, Ma Hongjun hugged Bai Qinxiang. Get lost. Bai Qinxiang dodged in annoyance and glared at him. I don't look good at all right now. Why do you still like to touch me? Even if you are ugly, I still like to touch you, Ma Hongjun said. Bai Qinxiang was speechless. It was obviously a romantic sentence, but Bai Qinxiang listened obediently. Shun Lingqi and Ning Rongrong at the side laughed. At this time, Dai Mubai and Oscar also came over. I say, you guys, hurry up. Dai Mubai came over and whispered, The three from the Martial Spirit Palace have passed the third test. They're also here for the fourth test. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. There was an inexplicable pressure. Not long after, they saw Possessi coming over with Hulaina and the other two. The three who had also passed the light of Poseidon and experienced a math test looked very calm. But each of them was brimming with confidence. Especially Hulaina, because she had not gone through the tide and waves here. Her skin was still fair and charming. Zhu Zhuqing frowned slightly and remained silent. Hello, Hulaina said with a smile. I didn't expect you to have been here for a while. I hope teacher didn't bring you any trouble. Indeed, he didn't bring any trouble. He was very obedient. Ning Rongrong said casually. Hulaina smiled and didn't think much of it. Teacher was not such an obedient person. However, she didn't want to say anything more. Lord Popetiff must have his own plans for Popetiff. Possessi once again brought out 3 stone pillars for Hulaina and the other 2 to train. The 3 of them didn't say much and directly flew up. Obviously, when they came, they were already very clear about the situation here. These 3 had become much stronger. Osk made mushroom sausages and handed them to them while shaking his head. Their soul power level is not lower than ours, especially that Hulaina. What's wrong with Hulaina? Is she very pretty? Shun Lingqi suddenly asked. She's indeed pretty. Not only is she pretty, but she has a good figure too. Oscar answered instinctively. Halfway through his sentence, he felt a chill run down his spine. He quickly changed his tone and said, But compared to you, Lingqi, she is still far inferior. It's just that her spiritual power is very strong and can easily attract other people's attention. Xiaoao, not bad. Dai Mubai walked over and put his arm around Oscar's shoulder. Kid, when did you become so smart? But I can vouch for this. This Hulaina's spiritual power is indeed exaggerated. It can easily attract us unknowingly. I'm afraid that other than Lil 3, none of our spiritual power can compare to hers. Shun Lingqi glared at Oscar and nodded with a forced smile. Let's go up first. Don't waste time. If we let them pass first, it will be too embarrassing for us. Dai Mubai said. Everyone nodded and flew up the stone pillars. At this moment, Wang Feng's eyes narrowed. He put down the heavy silver pillar in his hand and looked at them. It seemed that they had already adapted. It was time to add fuel to the fire. The raging waves slowly but violently roared. To the 9 people who had just climbed up the heavy silver pillar, a new storm had already appeared. P.S. A new week. Please vote. Good night and a chapter. Chapter 769. Storm. It was a real storm. When Ning Rongrong and the others climbed up the heavy silver pillar. In the next moment, the boundless power of the waves directly descended from above. What is this? Looking at the wave storm that was at least 100 to 200 meters high rushing towards them, Ning Rongrong was stunned on the spot. Usually, the waves were far from being so terrifying. It seemed to cover the sky and cover the sun. The boundless waves were like a giant beast that was about to devour them. It seemed to want to devour them completely. She wasn't the only one. The others were also dumbfounded. This was because over the past few months, they had been able to withstand the continuous impact of the waves on the heavy silver pillar. They were mentally prepared for the waves. However, these waves and tides were generally only slightly higher than the heavy silver pillar, so they could withstand it for a long time, but now, it was over 100 meters. The power was completely unimaginable. Where they were, although the waves and tides were very fierce, such a situation had almost never happened. In particular, behind the 100-meter-high waves, there were layers of waves that were crashing down like mountains. Is someone messing with us? Seeing this situation, their hearts skipped a beat. Rongrong is indeed a jinx. Ma Hongjun and the other soul warriors cursed secretly. The only person who could create such a power was definitely that white-clothed Popetiff Wang Wu. Ning Rongrong just said that she wouldn't cause trouble for them, but she didn't expect it to come now. What a jinx! Ning Rongrong was indeed stunned. She just said it casually, but she didn't expect it to be true. Seeing the 100-meter wave rushing towards her, Ning Rongrong screamed and closed her eyes. She circulated her soul power to resist. In this place, they couldn't even use soul skills, so they couldn't strengthen themselves. He could only rely on his body and soul power to resist the waves. The moment the sea dragon hit their bodies, the 9 of them could clearly feel that the impact was several times stronger than before. They could barely see a figure in front of them, overturning the sea. It stirred up the boundless waves, and its power increased by several times. Wang Feng struggled to shake the 70-meter-long, heavy silver pillar in the sea. Several months had passed, but he was still unable to use it smoothly. However, with the help of the whale sharks, Wang Feng was able to shake the largest, heavy silver pillar from the top. This made the waves and the furious waves' despair even more exaggerated and terrifying. To the 9 of them, it was as if they were caught in an endless storm of waves. The huge waves slammed onto each of their bodies. It was as if it was constantly destroying their spirit and willpower. Because the waves were too large, the sound of the waves crashing onto their bodies was too loud. Even the sound of the waves crashing onto their bodies was completely drowned out. In the past, they could last for at least 2 to 4 hours, but this time, they couldn't even last for an hour before falling into the sea. Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun, who were relatively stronger, also didn't last long. Not only was his soul force completely depleted, but his entire body was also burning with pain. Only Tang San was able to hold on for a very long time, at least 12 hours before he barely managed to land. One by one, they lay on the black reefs on the shore, like fish dried by the sun. They had nothing left to live for. Rongrong, you really jinxed it. The group looked at Ning Rongrong bitterly. Ning Rongrong, she couldn't say anything. Her hair was soaked and draped over her body, like a sea demon witch. Her skin was even redder. Who knew that Wang Wu would actually come again? Ning Rongrong said intermittently, "What a bastard." After 5 months of peace, everyone thought that Wangwu wouldn't do anything to them. However, what would come would still come. On the other side, Hu Laina and the others were discussing. Teacher is really strong. Even such a big pillar can stir up the sea. I hope we can destroy them this time. But the aura on Teacher's body gives me the feeling of a high consecrator. Yeah, I wonder how much Teacher's strength has changed. Judging from the aura, the three felt like they were facing the high consecrator again. However, they didn't know much about the high consecrator. As for how strong Wang Feng was now, the three of them couldn't feel it. Not to mention Hu Laina and the others. Even Possessy couldn't see through Wang Feng's strength. After the waves hit Ning Rongrong and the others, Wang Feng didn't stop training. On the contrary, the waves became even bigger. The more they looked, the more shocked they were. Because it was obvious that Wang Wu didn't do those waves on purpose. It was only caused by the other party's training. The more violent waves they suffered were just the waves caused by this Popediff Wang Wu when he was training. Just like before, this was just a little bit of strength that the other party used casually. He didn't do it on purpose. In the past few months, they were getting stronger, and so was Wang Wu. It was obvious that he had trained to a certain extent to cause such a commotion. The heavy silver pillar in his hand seemed to be getting lighter and lighter. An unparalleled and invincible feeling appeared in everyone's mind. After watching for a while, watching the other party shake the heavy silver pillar and stir up the waves, they felt an extremely inconceivable feeling. That strong feeling of strength was a huge visual impact. In just 5 months, the other party had grown so much. If he had another 5 months, the other party would have grown so much. If another 5 months passed, wouldn't this Wang Wu really be able to wield the heavy silver pillar? Just thinking about the 250,000 kilograms of weight was terrifying. In fact, as Wang Feng's body's potential was slowly unlocked and his strength increased greatly, it was followed by an imbalance in his control. Fortunately, Wang Feng's mental strength was enormous and could balance out Wang Feng's strength and control. Otherwise, if Zhu Zhuqing hugged him again, Wang Feng would probably send Zhu Zhuqing flying with just a slight movement. He gently held Ning Rongrong's small hand and directly crushed it. Especially after using soul power, he needed to control his soul power and physical strength step by step to reach a complete fusion point. No matter how strong he was, if he couldn't use it perfectly, it was useless. On the contrary, it would become a burden and a weakness for the enemy. Just like this, under this kind of training, another 5 months passed on this day. Tang San, who was in the center, had a bluish-gold light flash through his eyes. His purple pupils suddenly changed. Following the purple light of the rising sun in the sky, his entire aura gradually changed as well. In a chapter that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.